Barbados is a very proud god. He does have reason to be proud of his status and identity. He is so old that almost after the goddess of creation was sealed, the world caster, the watcher and the counterwatcher, these three brothers are ruling the multi-universe. The world caster stays in the world melting pot, constantly recovers those defective universes for forging, and then releases the new healthy universe. The positive monitor is in charge of all the positive physical universe. The anti-monitor broke up with the two of them, and left in a rage. Finally, after the little blue man Corona created the antimatter universe, he directly ruled the antimatter universe. For hundreds of millions of years, I have been watching all this silently, but no one is as special as you. Outsider. Barbados came, and the terrifying voice naturally carried a terrible pollution of sin, and his posture was extremely indifferent and overlooking. As the little pet that the world forge discovered by accident, he has come to today step by step, and after a long plan, he sneaked and killed the world forge and became the master of the world forge. Who else can do this? Who else is older, wiser, and more decisive than him? The eldest son of the god of creation, a powerful world forge, who held the worlds in his hands like a terrible god playing with toys, was killed by him. He, the great Barbados, has perfectly inherited everything from the world's forge. Barbados has always been proud of everything. In the melting pot of the world, he watched indifferently the changes of the world within the entire wall. From the time when the three brothers of the goddess of creation ruled everything. When the old gods such as Zeus, Odin, and Jade Emperor ruled everything, he sneered watching these jumping jokers like locusts rushing to the source of multi-universe. Until now, the old gods ended, and the new gods represented by Ka Khan and Daxt rose up. In the three epics, he watched everything indifferently. Countless gods are the dust of the past, insignificant. Outsiders, you have brought unprecedented fun to this boring world, which is good, but in the same way, you are no different from dust in my eyes. Barbados opened his wings to cover the sky in the true sense. Hiss. Martin just sneered, holding the anti-life equation in one hand, and at the same time smashing the past with a sword. Facing the terrifying and ancient DC living fossil Barbados, he not only did not show the slightest fear, but immediately attacked, without any scruples, that on Huo Ran's raised face. There was only endless coldness. You have lived so long, Barbados, that your head is not normal, and you still cling to the old glory. In the age of the old gods and the new gods, you don't even have a fart. Dare to let go. It's better to be hacked to death by me as soon as possible to make room for the newcomer sooner. Martin sneered again and again, and blasted away the dark sins forcefully. Barbados is a powerful jumper joker, a real ridiculous guy. In the age of the old gods headed by Zeus, Barbados was low-keyed to terrifying from the age of Ka Khan. In the so-called with his own power, the ceiling of the combat power of the entire new Protoss was raised by an order of magnitude. In a great multi-level universe god sweeping everything, Barbados has been squatting in the melting pot of the world, silently shaping the dark multi-universe little by little, only daring to stare at all this magnificent with greedy eyes, but he is slow dare to do it. It is right for him not to act, because he is really easy to be beaten to death by the old and new gods. Martin turned into a sharp sword directly, tearing everything apart in madness, strong and stalwart, and terrible waves burst out, surging with the absolute power that crushed the vast majority of the multi-level universe gods, facing this ancient Baba. Toss fights fiercely. He knows Barbados, and he seems to know it well? This guy actually did something on the old thing Barbados. Don't say anything else, at least I agree with what he said, Barbados, this old thing is too old to tell the truth. A god sneered and watched all this silently, but their gazes continued to turn to the anti-life equation, revealing a deep desire. Everyone wants this terrible artifact. Rumble. The terrible war broke out, and the dark multi-universe, which was already hit hard, ushered in a tragic destruction at this moment. The universe, shrouded in sin, was originally defective and full of instability. Once affected by this terrible attack, it exploded immediately. Numerous forces are constantly rushing to the anti-life equation, but Martin frowned while fighting Barbados fiercely, and deliberately locked the anti-life equation, preventing the integration of external forces. The anti-life equation beyond control was not what he wanted. Go to hell. Martin looked fierce. Although his body was small, he shook Barbados, who was as large as a galaxy. He tore everything open and confronted the terrifying ancient god. Boom. Martin tried his best to carry Barbados's claw, and while moving quickly, he broke the boundaries of time and space. He immediately cut it down with a sword, and the leadership module embedded in the star sword exploded with unprecedented power. In time, this star sword was also advanced to an extremely transcendent level. Buzzing. The star sword burst out with a roar, and at the moment when Martin was slashed, it immediately tore all the power blocking in front of it, and it smashed straight to a bat wing of Barbados. Hiss. The terrible sound resounded through countless worlds. Huge amounts of scars suddenly appeared, accompanied by the thick and sin-like blood that poured out from that wound, quickly spreading and contaminating all the worlds. All the gods were stunned, watching this scene with a dull expression. That sword. So terrible. A god spoke with a solemn expression. The terrifying blue light that seemed to penetrate everything and cut everything, almost enveloped the entire world inside the wall. The eternal rule was forcibly smeared with a terrible blue at this moment, and was roughly corrected. Barbados let out a miserable howl, filled with endless anger and horror. Why? Damn outsider, you despicable stowaway. You actually hurt me, Barbados, the god of bats. A bat wing of Barbados has been chopped into 2 pieces. This sword not only hurt his body, but was also injured by Martin along with his soul and spirit. And the scars more terrifying than this are precisely his powerful confidence, which is a severe blow to the confidence that broke out after 3 epochs but suffered heavy losses. He was a very timid and cowardly guy. He was born as a little pet. It was the World Forge who brought him into a god. Then he greedily destroyed all of this and stayed in the melting pot of the world. Until now. This is an extremely old, but not great guy. It became a real joke, and Martin personally tore off the stalwart veil that enveloped him. Looking at Martin walking step by step, Barbados showed a trace of panic and uneasiness in his eyes. This was an unprecedented feeling, and his confidence was frustrated. Facing the fierce-looking Martin, he was calm and powerful. He was finally terrified. There was a roar. Barbados flickered his wings and stretched out his 2 arms at the same time, sweeping everything violently. The moment he knocked Martin back, he turned and fled. Barbados escaped. At this moment, the figure of this super-old god fleeing in a hurry is particularly prominent. Countless eyes fell into silence one after another, and there was a little confusion on his face. Is this escape? That's it. They thought that Barbados, who came so powerfully, would let Martin taste the taste of failure. In the end, he escaped. That's it. I overestimate him. This is the first time I saw Barbados, but I didn't expect him to be like this. Is Martin acting crazy? Or is Barbados aware of something wrong? It must be the case. Barbados is the god who is second only to the Watchers and the Counter-Watchers today. He must have realized something terrible, so he escaped. Many gods talked in low voices. It is true that Barbados, the god of bats, has realized it is outrageous. They can only explain by force, but whether they believe in these explanations in their hearts, only they know. Many dreaded gazes fell on Martin in the middle one after another. He accepted the gaze of a whole world of higher beings, maintained a face of indifference, as if he had repelled Barbados, but it was just one piece. It's just a trivial matter. Quack. There was a crisp sound. On Martin's star sword, cracks broke out. From the very first small crack, it gradually began to spread. Finally, after the whole sword buzzed, the blue light flickered and burst open. Destroyed? It's a pity, but it doesn't matter. Turn around and let Sai Tianzhao use Tianzhao's hammer to repair it. Martin swept his eyes and collected the fragments. This is the price. To repel a terrifying enemy like Barbados, Martin has released the maximum power that has never been achieved before. Both the leadership module and the star sword have advanced to a terrifying extreme. The price is that the star sword is broken. He is about to open the 2-world channel, and then let Sai Tianzhao repair it. Sai Tianzhao, one of the 13 apostles, is dedicated to this. The gods who didn't know the truth were a little restless, watching this scene with astonishment on their faces. In their cognition, Martin swept everything after coming to the DC world, powerfully defeating one god after another, basically relying on this strange crystal-long sword, but this sword was shattered. Some fierce guys blinked, and their hearts were moved. Can be the next moment. The space-time tunnel opens. A big black man appeared beside Martin, staring at all the gods indifferently, but his indifferent eyes were filled with an instinctive desire to kill. Every god stared at, felt a kind of chills growing. Ancient Destruction Day. Looking at this special day of destruction, they felt the almost endless surging cycle from the monster body, and suddenly they were a little sitting on wax. Martin actually conquered the Ancient Destruction Day. How did he do it? This is a completely irrational evolutionary monster. The Golden Superman's complexion is particularly dignified. He was originally from Kryptonians and was born in an extremely old age. It can be said that he is a rare ancient Superman other than the Gold Superman and the Silver Superman. It is a forbidden biological experiment passed down from the ancient Krypton era. Know the most. He knew too well what the creature like Destruction Day was in essence. Perfect Kryptonian, such a monster actually followed Martin. In theory, this is simply impossible. The Golden Superman has a tingling scalp. Superman of the Golden Age and Superman of the Silver Age, including his Golden Superman, have both deeply understood the taboo experiment of the perfect Kryptonian, especially the ancient Destruction Day, the ancestor of all Destruction Days. In the end, they can only evade its edge and dare not fight against the ancient day of destruction. How to fight? The battle is to feed the experience pack to the ancient Destruction Day, and to kill is to make the ancient Destruction Day more perfect. Unable to fight, untargetable. But now, the most improbable thing has happened. The day of ancient destruction has actually become Martin's loyal servant? How can a god conquer a monster with only evolutionary instincts? Not only the Golden Superman, but those gods who know the terrible days of the ancient ruined days have a look of shock and a deep fear on their faces. Why do you show such an expression? I have heard of the ancient Destruction Day, and now it's nothing more than that. DC's greatest demon, Sangong Demon, had a grin, and 6 blood-red eyes looked at the day of ancient ruin and sneered. No one responded to him. At this time, the phantom stranger suddenly appeared, like a ghost who came and went without a trace. He pulled the gentleman hat on his head and said seriously, "Martin, you have got what you want. It's time to honor your promise. Although I don't take that Marvel world seriously, it is my business. You must honor your promise and open the door to Otherworld." To be honest, Phantom Stranger is different from Ghost. He has a stronger interest and desire to explore Otherworld. Ghost is the incarnation of God's anger, essentially DC's spirit of vengeance. Its role is similar to that of Ghost Rider on Marvel's side. It's full of trials and trials. However, Ghost's trial authority is a group of water, which cannot be judged. Then there is no judgment, just find the right method. Ghost, which seems to have super high authority and extremely strong ability against the gods, can completely ignore it. He even played Ghost like a monkey. I will keep my promise. This is what I have always wanted to do. Believe 500 me. I want to open the door of the 2 worlds more than you natives. Now, I have got the anti-life equation, finally it can be done. There was a surprised smile on Martin's face, and he could hardly help laughing out loud. Under the anticipation and apprehensive gaze of the gods, he immediately waved his hand. In an instant, the 4 mother boxes that had already escaped quickly dragged the card. Ribic and Grey flew over. This is the heir of Darkseid. The gods were suddenly startled, showing a perplexed look. Grey, I will give you the power you desire most. Help me accomplish one thing, and I will give you a certain degree of freedom. Martin beckoned, called Grey over, and then directly showed the light ball on his other hand. Grey looked excited, and his blood-red eyes stared at the light ball, revealing deep desire and obsession. This is power. Although the anti-monitor who obtained this thing was hacked to death by the almost invincible Martin, this only shows that the anti-monitor is too useless. I will not humiliate it, and I will follow you and return your gift. Grey said a word, and stretched out his hand impatiently. You have to repay me well. Martin let out a deep laugh, and immediately grabbed the ball of light and pressed it directly against Grey's head. The anti-life equation was directly filled into Grey's body by Martin. Rumble. The waves of horror erupted one after another. Grey got the anti-life equation, and instantly ushered in an unprecedented metamorphosis. The powerful force in charge of everything made her deeply fascinated. This is the feeling of power. Grey looked intoxicated. If she had this power, she would have killed Apocalypse against Darkseid. I gave you what you wanted, now it's time for you to give me back. Martin sneered in a low voice, and his gaze at Grey was clearly filled with satisfaction, which was a satisfaction with the Toolman. He is not afraid that Grey will rebel against her after gaining strength. This is a terribly smart woman. Willing to help you. Grey looked at Martin, and after a while, smiled. Martin sneered and pressed on Grey's shoulder. The next moment, the Omega effect in his body surged out at the same time. At this moment, these 2 peculiar forces suddenly produced a roar resonance, and in the collision of forces, they suddenly blended. After getting up, under the touch and integration of each other, a brand new power that surpassed these 2 powers suddenly began to appear. The combination of the anti-life equation and the Omega effect is so terrifying. Martin's eyes brightened, showing satisfaction, and then, he directly controlled the fire source in his body, and sent out a guy he had already prepared. Martin. You bastard. What do you want to do? Phoenix struggled fiercely, yelling. It was violently dragged out, and at first sight the horrible energy group that surged crazily, clearly brewing a terrible power to erase all life-related things, which caused the flames all over the phoenix to stand up at once. It is the emotional gathering of countless life forms on Marvel's side. Everything about it is laid on the life form. It can be said that it is absolutely opposite to the ghost thing in front of you. You have lived in me for so long, it's time to pay me some rent. Martin's face was indifferent. As soon as Phoenix Force appeared, the majestic sense of life that emerged successfully attracted the attention of many existences. It's a powerful emotion and life fluctuation, and it's very different from our world. Is this the spirit of all things in another world? The spirit of all things is a great existence of almighty universe level on the DC side, exhausting all the will and emotion of life. Although many ancient gods have not really come into contact with the spirit of all things, they know that there is such a hidden great existence in the world from the legacy of ancient times. Phoenix struggled fiercely, but it still couldn't get rid of Martin's bondage. It stared at Martin and looked at Martin angrily. Let's give up resistance. You are going to die anyway. Wouldn't it be better to make yourself more comfortable? Martin spoke lightly, and at the same time, directly controlling the life-killing force combined by the anti-life equation and the Omega effect, he immediately slammed into the Phoenix Force formed by the convergence of life. This is what Martin is going to do. With the two powers of the two worlds that are extremely opposed and have their own world characteristics, they will have an unprecedented collision. With these two extreme powers with their own world coordinates, they will blast away in one fell swoop. The door to two worlds. This is what Martin has planned for a long time. As for whether Phoenix will die. Sorry, why does Martin care about this kind of thing? Anyway, the noble and elegant Phoenix, in Martin's eyes, is just a terrific tool bird. He relied on the Phoenix Force that captured the two universes, coupled with the level he had already touched, and finally broke the bottleneck of the multi-level universe in one fell swoop. This is the process of using Phoenix Force as a tool. Martin has never cared about Phoenix Force, and he has no interest in turning this Marvel original force into his main force. Diaresis. Disappear, Phoenix. You who disappear now will bring brand new changes to the two worlds. You should feel honored. And you will also be relieved to know the other Phoenix fragments in the Marvel world. Martin spoke indifferently. Without waiting for the Phoenix Force to roar in anger, the terrifying force had already struck the past, and in just an instant, it swallowed the Phoenix. The two opposing extreme forces from the two worlds immediately erupted with a terrible crackling sound, destroying everything. At the same time, in the underworld, the coordinates hidden in the two power characteristics spontaneously are also revealed in the fierce confrontation at this moment. Especially, when the Phoenix Force is rapidly consumed, instinctively, it triggers the induction of the distant world. In the bang, the hidden world began to gradually appear. The door to the two worlds has opened. Corona thinks this world is really interesting. I created the antimatter universe, and now I have accidentally found a way to leave the world inside the wall and came to this world. This is a new world no worse than the world inside the wall. Kelowna and Gao Tianjun are embarrassed, and the two continue to communicate. Once again, Corona conducted an experiment, intending to make the universe of two different worlds collide, and then study the truth of the world from it. He is not greedy, he just wants to integrate the two monolithic universes. Then I will start. Corona looked at the huge instrument in front of him, and directly pressed the button under the gaze of his new friend Gao Tianjun. Terrifying energy fluctuations are generated, and there is a time and space tracking ability that even ordinary gods can reach. It directly tracks the power coordinates in Corona, and wants to connect to the DC world in the dark, and it will be in countless universes. One to get through. Are you sure this will work? This is how to get through two multi-universes, and how you came to our world is still a mystery so far, even you haven't figured it out. Gao Tianjun carefully observed 500 and said in a low voice. Corona smiled and said, "Don't worry, my friend, it's because I didn't figure it out, so I have to experiment. There must be some secrets in it. It will be revealed soon. According to what you and I have discussed, I come organize Avengers, you will lead the Justice League." Boom. With a loud noise, a huge beam of energy suddenly shot out, slowly tearing open a door. Corona looked at this scene with a fanatical look, full of obsession. His pursuit of knowledge and the unknown had already surpassed everything. Gradually, he clearly felt the breath of another world. Yes, there is my world. The world inside the wall. Kelowna yelled frantically. Gao Tianjun also looked moved, showing a shocking color, watching this scene in amazement. But in the next second, the expressions of the two of them froze in an instant. A terrible pressure suddenly struck from the other end. It's you two idiots again. This sound seemed to come directly from hell. Gao Tianjun was like falling into an ice cave, and he immediately remembered the fear of being dominated by the voice's owner. It's you, Martin. No wonder you haven't shown up recently. Even if Sidhorn and the others were besieging Cybertron, you didn't show up. You actually went to the world of Corona. Gao Tianjun screamed in disbelief. He instinctively wanted to turn around and escape, but in the next instant, one palm had already broken through the boundary of time and space, grabbed Gao Tianjun's neck, and squeezed it fiercely. Snapped. Gao Tianjun, the heavenly father of the universe, exploded immediately, and was obliterated by Martin along with his body and soul. Corona stared at this scene blankly, his face pale, and soon his clever brain wanted to understand a lot of things. Martin, Lord of Cybertron, suspected to have fallen asleep. So you didn't fall asleep at all, but went to my world. No, it's not right, could it be said. Corona soon thought of a terrible possibility. That is, the tunnel opened by the indescribable force that he suddenly captured, could it be? You are not stupid, you are much smarter than Gao Tianjun, an idiot. A figure walked out of this tunnel, his gaze swept away, and the whole Yu Zhou was greeted in an instant. In the end, his terrifying gaze, which seemed to carry hundreds of millions of weight, fell on Corona. There was a playful smile on Martin's face. It's this guy again. At the beginning, he twisted everything with indescribable power, and when he went to the DC world, even this scum also happened to capture the power of Cthulhu, and then smuggled into the Marvel world perfectly. It's a pity that this time, he was no longer so lucky, and he ran into Martin who was returning. You can't kill me. Since you also went to the world inside the wall, you should know that it is a world no less than Marvel. My master is the Dark Death, who is in charge of death, and I am his most loyal believer. Kelowna was frightened, and a deep chill suddenly grew in his heart. What kind of existence can have the ability to travel freely between two huge worlds? His clever head had already guessed that the man in front of him would not let him go. Then I will send you to see the Black Death Emperor, and when the Dark Knight comes in the future, maybe you and I will have a chance to meet again. Martin sneered in a low voice, stretched out his hand slowly, grabbed Corona directly, and killed the guy immediately. Just as he said, when the Black Lamp Beast of the Black Lamp Ring wakes up, it will create a disaster of Black Lamp zombies that swept through all, and all the decedents will become zombies and resurrected. Corona as the Black Death Emperor Ma Sai, who valued him, will definitely be awakened by the Black Death Emperor. I look forward to this day. Martin glanced at Corona's corpse, and an Omega effect was directly shot in his eyes, turning it into powder. Boom boom boom. The portal behind Martin is expanding at an astonishing rate, and in the midst of it, this entire magnificent and endless multi-universe is connected to another distant world at a certain critical point. What's more amazing is that as time goes by, this point of convergence is also spreading rapidly. It seems that the two worlds will be closer together. Ha ha ha, as this Marvel multi-universe. At the other end, bursts of terrifying laughter sounded, and they rushed over with eagerness. The door of the two worlds is really through. The gods on Marvel's side hadn't reacted in a dazed expression, but the gods on DC had already been eager to kill them. A series of terrifying figures burst out with powerful pressure, and the roar whistle descended on the Marvel multi-universe. This is an unfamiliar universe rule, a huge world. Countless universes are standing, and there are also many powerful multi-universe gods. It really is otherworld. Is this Marvel? The legendary world where several multi-universe coexist? Very well, Martin, you really didn't lie to us. We will not pursue everything you do in the world inside the wall, because you are worthy of what you get. The ancient beings on the DC side were happily going crazy. They came in after another, and were bathed in the New World Law. Only in a moment, they made a general analysis of the Marvel World Rule and adjusted it in an instant. With their own strength, they adapted greatly, and greatly reduced the Marvel World's rejection of them. This is an inevitable process. Even in Marvel multi-universe, although countless universes are similar, there are still various subtle differences in the universe rules, not to mention two completely different multi-universes. The advent of a large number of otherworld gods shocked the entire Marvel multi-universe. The many high gods of Marvel watched this scene dumbfounded, and watched the existences that were no less than theirs, like locusts. They were all stunned. Who are these guys? These guys. Who are these guys? They have completely unfamiliar universe rules on them, and they haven't had time to eliminate them. These bastards come from other multi-universes. Other multi-universes in the almighty universe. I know some news vaguely. It is said that in those multi-universes, there are also 5 great creation gods, as well as eternity and death. No, these are not the same. Damn, they are not from another multi-universe, but directly from an absolutely unfamiliar world. They are not beings in the Marvel Almighty Universe at all, they are a whole new world. Many Marvel gods looked at these crazy visitors with horror, and they were all dumbfounded. They are not afraid. They really want to fight. They will definitely not confuse or lose with the blessing of multi-universe. But what makes them bewildered is, where did Martin get these guys? What method did he use to summon these strange gods? Is it our guess, shape-shifting King Kong multi-universe? Martin has been creating a large number of mature fighters, which is very strange. But these are not shape-shifting King Kong. Many ancient gods were alarmed, waking up from their slumber one after another, watching the gods swarming into the Marvel multi-universe in shock. It was the 5 creator gods who responded first. Guests from the unknown world, leaving here, your unscrupulous invasion is declaring war. Annihilation looked indifferently, and his oppressive gaze fell on the figure of each existence. The many mad and delighted DC gods, the original arrogant attitude, immediately stopped, slightly restrained, and looked at the annihilation seriously. The level of the super universe. There are not many gods at this level in the world inside the wall. Phantom Moke whispered, and subconsciously pulled the gentleman's hat on his head, carefully observing everything. More gods appeared and began to confront each other, observing each other with extreme fear and caution. The more I looked at it, the more I was astonished. The strength and specialness of the other side shocked both of them. This golden guy, with an S logo tattooed on his chest. How does it resemble the guy Hyperion? And it's also very similar to Sentry and Fighting Sword. Well, this demon is a bit interesting. Look, Crimson Universe's Ceterac has already focused on this 6-eyed great demon. This illusory creature in a green robe. The spirit of vengeance? Can the spirit of vengeance be so powerful? Headed by the 5 great gods, many gods gathered and looked at the gods of DC, and a strong threat was faintly erupted. The two sides started a confrontation directly, behaved extremely cautiously, and did not take action for a long time. They all felt tricky, especially after deeply feeling the terrifying power displayed by the other party. Their mentality exploded. Martin, you lunatic, what do you want to do? Death roared angrily. Many DC gods took a look at Death, and thoughtfully, they could tell at a glance that this god is in charge of this multi-universe Death Authority. Not to mention strength, just this noble status is very important. Make them jealous. Martin, you fulfilled your promise well, then. Sanomiya suddenly laughed in a low voice. He first gave Satolik a vicious look, and then looked at Martin, showing a weird laugh with greed. Then, you don't have the value of existence. Your most powerful weapon, the Star Sword, has been broken. I see what you used to fight me. Sanomiya gave a grinning grin. Huge amounts of paws are about to grab Martin. Many gods immediately sneered and watched this scene indifferently. But Martin was extremely calm and opened his hands slowly. In an instant, brilliance flashed by, and several light curtains emerged, finally condensed into strange weapons, lingering around Martin's body. Every artifact exudes a powerful pressure, and the demon of the Sanomiya is stunned, revealing a confused look. The Star Sword is indeed gone, but I have other artifacts that are no less than the Star Sword. Soul Resurrection Gun, Time Blade, etc. Which one do you like? Forget it, I will use them one by one to chop on you. It's okay. Martin spoke slowly. Factory. Martin directly summoned the remaining artifacts, each of which was no less than the Star Sword. Load the leadership module again, and the result is the same. Although there is no Star Sword with the strongest attack power, it can be used to fight the higher gods with other weapons. How come there are so many artifacts? Sanomiya looked at the artifacts exuding multi-universe fluctuations, each of which revealed a strong sense of technology, and was immediately confused. There is actually more than one weapon of the same level as the Star Sword? Boom. Martin grabbed the stun gun, gave a low laugh, and stabbed Sanomiya directly without hesitation. The Sanomiya demon stepped back in fright, with a strong look of fear on his face. Why Martin always has a hole card that they can guess. Boom. Another figure swiftly slaughtered, and in silence, it directly rushed to the Sanomiya demon, and a great battle broke out. The day of ancient destruction has come, without any words or hesitation, directly attacking the devil of the 3 palaces. With a grinning smile, Sanomiya also took advantage of the trend to confront this famous monster. After only a few confrontations, Sanomiya's face changed, and his heart was throbbing. Every time he shot, He could always be carried by the ancient destruction day, and he completed the evolution in an instant, fighting him with a stronger and more perfect posture. In just a few moments, the Sanomiya demon was deeply aware of the terrible monster in front of him, and at the same time he also knew he was not the opponent of the ancient destruction day. Asshole. The demon of Sanomiya screamed secretly, and a terrible demon beam burst out of 6 eyes and blasted onto the ancient destruction sun. The moment he knocked the opponent into the air, he hurriedly fled and stayed away from here. Martin. What exactly do you want to attract these outsiders? Eternally looking at Martin angrily. Martin smiled faintly. I just think it's boring to be targeted all the time, and it's time for me to target you. As soon as these words came out, many gods on Marvel's side immediately turned black, especially the 5 gods, with their faces extremely ugly. Especially Death. In the process of Martin's rapid rise, they did nothing to add trouble to Martin. Now, this crazy man is directly bringing powerful gods from a strange world. You don't need to fight to know that the strengths of the 2 sides are almost the same, and this is definitely not the full foundation of the world of both sides. Once a war starts, I don't know how many gods will fall here. At this time, a golden figure stepped forward, exuding a high-dimensional noble aura. The gods of Marvel multi-universe, we have no intention of invading your affairs. For us, exploring the unknown is a more valuable thing. For the world of the same size and the same powerful gods, if we both fight, it will cause mass extinction of life and the fall of gods. Peace is our common aspiration. The golden Superman stood up directly, with a gentle smile on his face. As he spoke, the golden light dazzled and blinded many people. This 5-dimensional Superman has grown to an astonishing level and is by far the most powerful Superman. The 2 sides are still deadlocked. Snapped. Martin has already acted. I am not a good person. I have tried my best to open the channel between the 2 worlds without asking for anything in return. All your gods are just tools for my purpose. Martin sneered and opened his mouth. He controlled the nodes of the 2 worlds, and instantly began to expand further. In a sudden, the world in the DC wall and Marvel multi-universe began to collide and integrate wildly. In front of this terrifying power, Martin, who controls the existence of the 2 worlds in his own body, completely exploded with all his power, frantically tearing open the barrier. In an instant, the 2 multi-universes were both erupting fierce tremors, and even more astonishing scenes soon happened. I saw one universe after another. At the moment, it turned into a meteor, and was dragged by Martin in the roar's whistle. The madness crashed together. With the collapse of countless universes, the different rules were also buried in this terrible disaster. In the hundreds of millions of destructions and mixing, a new rule has gradually evolved, one that can adapt to both systems at the same time. A whole new universe was formed in the disaster. But this is at the cost of the destruction of countless old universes. What a crazy handwriting. The gods of Marvel and DC looked at this scene with shocked faces, their faces extremely solemn. Even if they existed for a very long time, witnessed countless major events, at the moment was also shocked by Martin's courage. He is shaping a brand new multi-universe. What's the point of this? Even if a new world is born, what can he get? I don't know, this lunatic. An existence stared at Martin, who was in a frenetic state with horror. What kind of courage and awareness is this to do this kind of thing? This is not a crazy man that can be summarized. From Martin's arrival in the DC world, to the collection of artifacts in DC, he broke the door of the 2 worlds in one fell swoop. What terrible wisdom and determination is revealed in this? Some gods were about to move, with fierce lights in their eyes, looking at this unprecedentedly powerful Martin, they hesitated. Even if it is annihilated this kind of super-universe level, it is difficult to win against Martin, who has a lot of artifacts on his body. I seem to know what he is going to do. She opened her arms infinitely and held the infinite space, feeling the crazy expansion of her own authority, and immediately realized something while she was happy. Combine. Martin snarled. In an instant, countless explosions reached the largest scale. Everything that was surging was the funeral of hundreds of millions of lives. At the moment, Martin took all of them to extinction. The collision of the 2 multi-universes has also reached its peak at this moment. With the help of this unprecedented terrifying destruction and new power, Martin, as the core of the connection between the 2 worlds, at the moment has finally stood at the tipping point of his biggest goal. Superior. Countless powers rushed into Martin's body, forcibly spurring Martin's specifications, and took a leap towards a whole new level. Soon, the limit of the multi-level universe that bound him tightly, in 2 multi-driven by the violent universe, it immediately crossed over. Super universe level. Success. The powerful pressure of super-universe levels spread suddenly, causing terrible shocks. That surpassed the level in the multi-universe, just appeared just now, and it swept everything in an instant. The high gods of the two worlds looked at this scene with amazement, feeling the extremely oppressive coercion, have fallen into silence. Everything was forcibly suppressed and destroyed at this moment, as if there was only Martin in the entire known concept, overwhelming all truth and falsity. Hundreds of millions of indescribable terrifying lights shrouded everything, shattering everything in a sudden, and the mighty power above a multi-universe spread unscrupulously, modifying everything into Martin's own color. No, how could this happen? This bastard actually got promoted to super-universe level by virtue of the integration of the two worlds. I see, this is his plan. You can also use this method for 25 years. With the burst of power from the destruction and rebirth of two multi-universes, it breaks the bottleneck of a single multi-universe in one fell swoop, and enters the super-large level. This. He planned that way from the beginning. That's how he planned to dive into the world inside our walls. A god looked at Martin, who seemed to be the center of the world, and suddenly felt his scalp numb. How could such a thing happen? How could such a ridiculous thing happen? A super-universe level that can hardly be born for 100 million hail a month. How about this one? And still in this way. What a ruthless method, what a cruel heart. This is the sacrifice of the destruction of the two worlds. Ghost was extremely furious, and hurricanes began to slowly emerge from that illusory form, and Martin's gaze had already become unprecedentedly cold. This wicked fellow, for his own selfish desires, committed such a terrible thing. Crime. Do you really think that no one can judge you? The phantom stranger stopped Ghost and said solemnly, Ghost, you are not Martin's opponent now. A super-universe level god is no longer what we can fight against. This has exceeded the upper limit of your jurisdiction. The 5 creation gods at the moment also looked at each other with amazement. Looking at this unprecedented scene, they also understood why Martin did this. Unfortunately, when they understood, it was too late. This guy, from the very beginning, was not just planning to open up the channels between the two worlds, he was going to directly urge the two worlds to integrate. Eternal anger growled low, and there was a trace of deep jealousy and regret in Martin's gaze. It turns out that it can still be like this. Why didn't he think of it? Eternal is not a kind god. He personally led the team to kill the first firmament before he became the second generation Eternal. As long as the benefits are large enough, Eternal can do it without hesitation. Unfortunately, it's too late now. Although this guy is extremely powerful, you should still be stronger than him. If you want to do it, you can only take advantage of it now. Infinite suddenly laughed and said to Annihilation. Annihilation watched this scene quietly, his eyes indifferent, and said, I don't care how far he reaches, and I am not interested in fighting a guy like him. Even if he ruined our world. The world is destroyed, so it will be rebuilt immediately. Anyway, it is not restarting once or twice. Don't think I don't know. The integration of the two worlds is the creation gods who benefit the most. Infinite, you can do it anytime. Have you stepped into super-universe level? And you, Death. Annihilation coldly snorted. No, not. I didn't go further, but my authority was divided. Death's face was ugly, feeling the shrinking of his authority, his face was furious. The other creation gods all looked over, with a look of astonishment. What's the matter? Is the other party's god of death stronger than you? Galactus asked in surprise. It's not a question of being strong or not. I feel that the other party has 3 gods of death who are competing with me for the rule of death. Death was extremely angry. What is going on with these otherworld visitors? There are 3 gods of death. And one of them actually made her feel terrified, and she couldn't estimate the level of the other party. In fact, there are quite a few death gods on the DC side. In the realm of gods, Hades, the lord of the underworld. The death band on the 500 emotional spectrum, the black lamp ring the lamp beast, the black death emperor. And, the second child of an endless family who lives in hell and claims to be with God has died. The first 2 are no less than the death on the Marvel side, and the third, the death of the endless family, completely slams the death on the Marvel side, which is less of an almighty universe level. Competing with these 3 guys for the authority of the new world, Marvel's death fell into a disadvantage from the beginning. Not only did her level and strength not skyrocket like Infinity, but declined even more, and she was always in a state of fierce competition. Otherwise it will shrink further. Death feels aggrieved. Annihilation, you just watched him do this. Death growled. Annihilation said indifferently. It doesn't make any sense whether I look at it or not. The point is how that person will think. The voice just fell. In an instant, everything seemed to stand still, and a bright golden brilliance swept everything away and enveloped the entire new multi-universe. The golden giant appeared. The Court of Life is here. The highest law enforcer of Marvel multi-universe, the Great Court of Life has come. In the endlessly spreading golden brilliance, there seemed to be countless hymns resounding, praising this great coming with the world's most beautiful music and tunes. The terrifying coercion spread unscrupulously, and all the gods changed their faces wherever they passed. The Life Tribunal is here, and it seems that the main body was dispatched. The Court of Life is the almighty universe god in the Marvel world. What a terrifying sense of oppression. I don't know how it compares to those in heaven and hell. Well, I just collected countless scattered information about the destroyed universe. This Court of Life is actually the judge of the entire Marvel Almighty Universe, similar to the ghost of our universe. The Marvel Almighty Universe. Sure enough, this is a huge world no less than our DC. Phantom Moke looked at this terrifying giant who didn't know how tall he was with a shocked face, and a deep amazement appeared on his face. The Supreme Judge of Marvel Multi-Universe, the custodian of the Almighty Cosmic Order. Isn't this kind of existence an enhanced version of Ghost? It's actually Almighty Universe level. Ghost also looked at the Court of Life with a shocked face, but at the first glance, he had a strong affection for this golden existence. He clearly felt the boundless justice and right of trial from the Court of Life. Responsibility. Such status, such powerful strength and distinguished status are exactly what Ghost desires most. All the gods fell silent and couldn't lift their heads under the pressure of the Almighty Universe level of the Court of Life. The impact of the integration of the two worlds has exceeded the limit of multi-universe. This is the collision of two almighty universes, the collision of countless gods and different rules, endless destruction and rebirth. The Life Tribunal spoke, and the voice was magnificent, and it spread to countless worlds. Even on the DC side, the realm of God, which was barely stable in this terrible impact and surpassed the multi-universe, was also shaken at this moment. Some powerful existences in heaven and hell were originally against Marvel multi-universe. The interest was not so great, but when the Life Court appeared, they immediately became interested. The so-called Marvel world is actually not a multi-universe, but an almighty universe. At least not inferior to us in the level. The almighty universe God has appeared, and the ultimate existence beyond the almighty must also exist. The ultimate existence on our DC side is God and the main watcher, but on Marvel's side, it is still unknown, but at least one will be right. A complete almighty universe is enough to support an ultimate existence. In heaven and hell, that monstrously powerful existence talked in a low voice, looking at the Court of Life with great interest. The ultimate in DC has always been very high profile. God will not say it. There are just a few independent duplications such as the eyes of God and the voice of God, as well as the helper master craftsman God, and so on. Therefore, the name of God has a high reputation in DC. The main watcher is the source of the Watcher family. All the monitors are initially a trace of insignificant body dander separated from the main monitor, and then reproduce themselves, and then there is a glorious and powerful family of monitors. According to rumors, the main monitor is a piece of paper floating in the DC Almighty Universe. It does not know how long it is or how wide it is. It occupies an infinite range. In the conventional sense, the DC world, the world within the wall, is just the main monitor. It's just a trivial flaw on the person. In the age when the giant fierce beast that could tear each other with God was not born, God and the main watcher were already the only two ultimate existences recognized by the DC gods. Therefore, they are extremely concerned about the ultimate existence of Marvel. Since there is the concept of the omnipotent universe, in theory, at least one great existence created all of this. It can only be the ultimate. This is where DC's top gods are most attracted. I just don't know, the ultimate on Marvel's side, who is stronger than the God in the main watcher on our side? The almighty universe level elders in heaven and hell finally fully awakened at this moment, and finally began to move their eyes and observe Marvel enthusiastically. Originally, they had no interest in the small Marvel world at all. Marvel multi-universe. How many multi-universe coexist? That's a fart, isn't it a multi-universe? They can pass through the wall of origin. They know how vast the almighty universe outside the wall is. The land of origin will always send the God of creation to create one multi-universe, and then send the God of judgment to review this one after another. Multi-universe. Multi-universe is not valuable at all, but if it is an almighty universe, its meaning is completely different. The many existences of heaven and hell must be treated with caution. God's duplication and horsemen in heaven, DC First Family and the other two of the big three in Hell, must face the Marvel world seriously. But looking at it, they gradually frowned. Diaresis. How does this life court feel so weak? Well, although Almighty Universe level has reached the theoretical end, omniscience and omnipotence, there are still highs and lows. How does this court of life feel? Similar to Basib and Azadze. In Hell, the only two of the three giants left in the traditional Hell, Beelzeb and Azadze, suddenly turned dark. Their faces were listened to the whispers of broken thoughts, and their eyelids jumped wildly. When we are deaf. The two of them, plus Lucifer, were originally the three giants of Hell, the proper ruler of Hell. As a result, first Lucifer followed Michael and left the world inside the wall, and the two of them were forced into Hell again. The Endless family was defeated and was forced to give up the dominion over Hell, and could only keep a low profile. This life court is obviously already very powerful. Beelzebub looked aggrieved. Yes, the life court is very strong. Azadze bit his head. All eyes fell on the life court at this moment. This great being continued to speak. Martin, you forcibly destroyed two multi-universes for your own selfish desires, and this has led to two vast and endless juxtaposed worlds, creating an intersection that would never occur before. You want atonement for your crime. The terrifying golden light spread and swept through all suns forcefully. Martin watched the instant coming, and he overwhelmed everything and at the same time alarmed the life court of the top existence on the DC side. His face was calm. Not only did he not panic at all, he showed a hint of wonder. This time, the court of life that came down was not the duplication that had been overturned, but the real body was not the fact that he rushed to face the black magic god Sithorn before. The great existence of Almighty Universe level. This is also the first time in Martin's life that he confronted the gods of Almighty Universe level and was shocked by the mighty power that swept everything. The court of life, no matter how you say it, is a real almighty cosmic god, the theoretical ceiling. Martin exclaimed. However, it was just admiration. As some ruthless characters on the DC side said, the court of life is indeed the weakest Almighty Universe level, which is much stronger than it. Apart from other things, the Adam-S court is half a level stronger than the life court, not to mention other gods like Dumu, and the Ivory Kings of the Marvel First Clan surpassing the Protoss. This is just reasonable combat power. Not counting those that are comparable to DC's Ancient Destruction Day. And this is the Almighty Universe God on Marvel's side, if you count DC's side. The life court has no status. When OAA is making you, you should think more about it. You should be stronger than you are now. Martin gave a faint smile. As soon as he said his words, all the gods were stunned, staring at Martin dumbfounded, with a strange expression on his face. How dare he? How dare he talk so much about the existence of the Almighty Universe level in the court of life? It's crazy. Even DC's most unruly three-house demon, at the moment, was convinced. Looking from a distance, under the light of the court of life, he didn't dare to let go, but only admired Martin's fear of death. Oa? But it is this name that really attracts the top DC existences. Never heard of it, but actually created a court of life? Does this existence become Marvel's ultimate existence? It looks like it should be right. The great existence of this OAA should be the ultimate comparable to God and the creator of the Marvel Almighty Universe. DC's almighty cosmic gods talked in a low voice, with bright eyes. Such a magnificent world is interesting and can truly attract their interest. You actually know OAA. It has always remained unwavering and annihilated with extreme indifference to all changes. At the moment, he was moved, his gaze fell on Martin, and he spoke in amazement. Many gods on Marvel's side even looked confused. Oa. Which is it? Created the court of life. Will such a shocking thing be true? It turns out that the life court whose origin is a mystery and whose origin is unknown is actually a toolman created by this great existence named OAA? But they have never heard of the name OAA, never. Above all things, the ultimate of everything, I definitely know. Martin slowly raised his head, looked calmly at the life court, and smiled lightly. Then, the great life court, are you sure you want to try me? You know. Many guys on DC are very interested in me. Are you sure you want to judge me? Your crime has reached the point where it must be judged, and you will absolutely lead things that shouldn't happen, and become a reality. This is huge amounts of guilt. The life court slowly raised his hand, and the terrifying golden light began to converge. This seemed to condense the power of all the known concepts of all things in the world, and turned into a terrible light ball, with countless streams of light surging, sweeping everything. All the gods who have not touched the Almighty Universe, at the moment felt an utter chill. If they were hit by this blow, they would encounter something more terrifying than death. It will really be erased, along with the memory of past existence. In the cold machine thinking of the life court, Martin had already been judged to be damned. He has already, with the help of the powerful authority granted to him by OAA, has perceived the horrible aura that made him tremble in the DC Almighty Universe, which is the aura that only the ultimate existence can possess. The trouble is big. This is an equally versatile world alongside Marvel. It is Martin, a bastard, who knocked the two almighty universes together with one hand. This is an unforgivable thing. In an instant, everything fell into silence and became bleak. There was only the light group condensed by the Court of Life, and Martin, who was locked up tightly in the world. Dead. It is impossible for the super god to fight against the ***, even the weakest ***. Do you want to save him? It's not difficult to save him. Although this life court doesn't understand it yet, it's really the weakest kind from the perspective of it now. What's more interesting to me is that Martin seems to know a lot of secrets. Interesting, DC's Almighty Universe gods watched this scene with great interest, as if they were enjoying a rare entertainment show, but at the same time they were ready to move. Because of their interest, they wanted to get Martin over. But Martin, who was about to be erased forever, looked at the overwhelming, unavoidable blow, and suddenly smiled. This smile is so presumptuous, with a kind of disregard for the Court of Life. Do you think this is all my strength? Do you know why I said that OAA made you too weak? Because you were about to die. Facing the terrible attack that drowned everything, Martin slowly opened his arms, his face showing a wild laugh. The life court of Almighty Universe level, what a powerful and great existence, it is a pity that it is about to die here now. The ancient Destruction Day took a step indifferently, his muscles bulged, and he was about to replace Martin and kill directly to the Court of Life. It is immortal, it doesn't care about the Court of Life at all, and even out of the instinct of evolution, it is eager to challenge the possibility of the Court of Life. Get down. The day of destruction, it's not time for you to do it. Martin showed a faint smile, and directly raised his hand to stop the ancient Destruction Day, to deal with such things as the Court of Life, and not let the ancient Destruction Day take action. He subdued the ancient Destruction Day, but in order to use it to deal with Marvel's side, those few upgrades are unreasonable. After taking a deep look at the terrible blow that enveloped everything in an instant, Martin finally moved. System. Summon shapeshifting King Kong creation god, Supreme. Martin stared at the Court of Life, thinking silently in his heart. The next moment, the endless luster burst out suddenly, and it overwhelmed everything in an instant. Even the gods were not spared, they were suppressed by this terrifying light beam, and produced a terrible sense of suffocation. What kind of power is this? How can Martin have such a powerful power? Since he has such power, why should he hit two worlds to make himself a super universe level? What a man full of mysteries. %Z**SG. Is it my illusion? I feel a sense of creation in this power, as if a whole new world was born and destroyed in an instant. Many gods were shocked to feel this powerful and noble power from Martin, and they were suddenly shocked. What's even more stunned is that, as time goes by, a mental fluctuation has appeared in Martin. An unknown great existence is slowly recovering, coming to them. This Almighty Universe level. Could it be that Martin is actually the god of Almighty Universe level? No, it's not Almighty Universe level, it's still something. But it's also very different. It's almost already in the realm of the Almighty Universe. Even if it's just like this, it's amazing. The beings who originally thought Martin was dead, felt this power horribly, looked at each other, almost blinded by this terrible change, and even their willpower had undergone terrible destruction. How could such an unreasonable thing happen? Why is Martin always full of miracles and changes? It seems that no one can ever calculate this man completely? A majestic power rose from Martin, and made a strong move. In a bang, a fist stretched out in a fierce blow, defeating the light ball from the Court of Life, completely dispersing it, and turning it into countless extreme particles spread to all directions. The noble light dissipated. A reminder of an astonishingly large figure, at the moment has stood quietly beside Martin. The endless stream of light circulates on the surface of the sacred organism, and countless all-encompassing auras continue to flow, setting off the supremacy and majesty of this deity's existence. The shape-shifting King Kong creation god, Supreme, has finally arrived at this moment. Extreme? Creation god? Character. Height. Energy. Infinite. Body. Power. Almighty Universe level, pseudo, saying. Evaluation. Shapeshifting King Kong's creation god, the beginning of chaos, the creator of creation. Yuan Shi Tianjun and Universe Emperor are the oldest and most satisfying works he has created. The Supreme slowly retracted his fist, looked up, and looked at the life court that had suddenly fallen into silence. At this moment, the life court couldn't help being silent, looking at this sudden and inexplicable existence. You are also an outsider, an incomplete almighty universe god, you don't belong to this world at all. The life court looked at the mechanical god in front of him, and said in a deep voice. You are right. I am indeed an outsider, and I am indeed experiencing the instinctive rejection of this world. I am not truly almighty now in an extremely embarrassing situation. The Supreme looked up and said indifferently, but if I kill you, I will be complete naturally. Only by killing you and stepping on your corpse can I understand what the real almighty universe level is like. The world of shapeshifting King Kong, compared to Marvel and DC's huge system, is indeed by more than an order of magnitude, but it is not important at all. The real key is that the Supreme is about to get what he wants. Kill an almighty universe god with your own hands and get everything from this almighty universe god. Ignorance. The life court whispered, in indifference, to judge the mechanical god in front of him. But the next moment, his movement stopped. I just said that you will die here. Martin spoke indifferently and took a straight step, but instead of killing to the court of life, he went straight to the Supreme. Click. A terrifying voice sounded, and a depression directly appeared on the Supreme's chest, which happened to allow Martin to enter and then control. Martin's figure was completely hidden into the Supreme's chest. In an instant, a terrifying coercion that could rival the court of life erupted, sweeping everything in the mighty force, and the high gods of the two worlds could not breathe. The endless gods illuminate countless worlds, rendering this vast world into a brand new color. Facing the terrifying coercion, the gods all fell into a state of aphasia, watching all this dully. Can still do this. Mechanical. Martin, who actually directly occupies the body of this mechanical god, wants to use this to face the court of life? The key is that he really did, it really works. A god only felt his scalp numb, and he was dumbfounded, and fell into an attitude of skepticism about life. It's because they have lived for too long, they have experienced countless events, and have seen countless genius monsters, but they have never been so unsure of them as Martin. Martin made them feel pain. Why suddenly, this guy has left them far behind? Obviously, not long ago, he was just a multi-universe god. Now relying on external forces, he can actually shake the court of life? The court of life, die here. I will build a tombstone for you with huge amounts of to witness your great achievements. The Supreme slowly raised his head, and on that face, a terrible light burst into his eyes, and there was a glimmer of red light that was fleeting, which was the power of the Omega effect. Obviously, it is Martin who is controlling the Supreme. This man occupies the Supreme exorcism, coordinating the Supreme's full strength. Lie. The court of life remained cold, without any emotion of surprise due to the presence of the Supreme. He looked down at Martin, turned into the Supreme and said solemnly, "You are a human being full of lies. It has not been realized." The Life Tribunal has collected all the information related to Martin and is very sure about Martin's character. Anything promised by Martin will be preserved after the war. Obviously, Martin has never fulfilled this promise. If you die, don't you know? Martin sneered, manipulating the body of the Supreme and rushed towards the court of life. Two great beings standing at almighty universe level. A terrible war broke out at this moment. Even if only moving their bodies, it will cause countless worlds to tremble in an instant. At the level of omnipotence, every subtle move, as long as they want, can cause countless worlds to spontaneously twist, and a trivial will cause hundreds of millions of lives to die in extreme pain and wailing. Rumble. Two huge figures confronted and punched hard. Martin hit the life court directly, but he was quickly stared at by the three faces on the head of the life court. The three gazes looked together, in a panic. Martin, who was controlling the Supreme, immediately felt a trembling from the soul. Almighty universe level. Martin sneered and moved in his heart. The Supreme figure suddenly jumped up, forcibly destroyed the gaze, and hit the life court hard. The endless rule was distorted in an instant, and the universe, which had just been reborn by billions of people, exploded in an instant. This confrontation between hands and feet was enough to erase everything. Is this the power of the almighty universe god? Some gods evaded in embarrassment, and the trivial aftermath made them feel pain from the bottom of their hearts. There was a silent roar. Hundreds of millions of worlds collapsed and turned into stars. Not only that, including the aloof gods, they were all horrified at this moment. looking at this terrible battle that almost wiped out all concepts in amazement. There are only two giants with divine light shining, and every shot is exhausted of all tangible invisibles such as energy, rules, and concepts. This is a scene beyond their imagination. For the first time in countless years, I have seen the gods of almighty universe level fight. Indeed, I only saw it in my life. While talking, the gods fled in embarrassment, avoiding the aftermath of the fight between the two s. Not long ago, they were the high gods who ruled countless worlds, but now, they are almost the same as the humble creatures. It's all flies. Is this kind of thing possible? How could a ready-made almighty universe level suddenly appear? What the hell is this brand new mechanical god? The eternal voice was low and he looked at this scene in disbelief. His supreme confidence was completely knocked into the abyss by Martin's horror and unknown at this moment. Obviously, this is a fact. Martin summoned an almost omnipotent god under our noses. What's more terrifying is that he can fully control this noble god. Have you ever thought about what this means? Annihilation spoke indifferently, his voice revealed solemnity. At the moment, another terrifying wave struck. Annihilation's face changed slightly, and he raised his hand fiercely and slapped it up. The terrifying force of super-universe level broke out in an instant, and this aftermath was wiped out. This means that Martin's identity is more noble than this pseudo-all-powerful unknown mechanical god. Otherwise, this mechanical god would never be willing to be driven and controlled by Martin. Galactus said in a low voice. The information revealed in this is terrible. A pseudo-all-powerful, for what purpose did he respect Martin's orders so much? He did not hesitate to let him control everything. It can be confirmed now that Martin also comes from a mechanical world, but it seems that this mechanical world is not very good. If this pseudo-omnipotent is the ceiling of combat power, then this mechanical world is a great multi-universe. Death watched this extremely fierce battle indifferently, and finally fell into silence. This is the first time she has witnessed such a terrible war belonging to almighty universe level. Boom boom boom. The terrible roar continues, piercing the boundary between all tangible and invisible. In this terrifying extinction, it seems that all concepts have lost their meaning. One after another, the spread of light that surpassed everything, and when it hit the Supreme's body one after another, along with the trembling sound of countless areas, cracks began to appear on the surface of the Supreme's body. Under the attack of the Life Tribunal, this powerful and unsolvable body actually appeared to be damaged. Snapped. In contrast to Supreme's injury, the Life Court also suffered multiple heavy blows. Martin controlled the Supreme, raised his hand to hit a ball of light, and even hit the Life Court with one punch, and made multiple shots. It has already torn a terrible crack in the chest of the Life Court by pressing the stalwart. The meticulous and complete concept of the gods just opened a gap. You will die here. After the OAA designates a brand new court, you will be completely in the past. No one will remember you. Martin sneered, and immediately drove the Supreme rushing over. Even though the scars were dense, there was still a palpitating chill at this moment. The barriers were pierced. The next moment, Martin drove the Supreme directly to the front of the Life Court, directly raised one arm, and hit the Life Court in the sudden movement, and immediately stabbed the Life Court in the chest. Hiss. A terrible sound that almost shredded an entire almighty universe came out, and with the trembling eyes of countless gods, everything seemed to freeze at this moment. An arm of the Supreme forcibly broke through the terrifying body of the Court of Life, and finally penetrated the only trace of damage amidst countless impossibility. This punch was enough to damage the basic framework of the almighty universe. With a bang, it immediately sank into the chest of the Life Court. This billion-meter-high giant uttered an instinctive roar. Huge amounts of golden light burst out uncontrollably, as if the raging Wang Yang had to pour out, following this terrible scar, and from all kinds of scars that shouldn't appear theoretically, it surged out. Endless divine light shocked. The gods are afraid. Martin. He actually smashed through the Life Court. The chest of the Court of Life was pierced by this punch. This. The gods who flee and dodge in a hurry are also sluggish at this moment, looking at this scene in amazement. This is the first time that they have witnessed the injury of the almighty universe god with their own eyes. Just being injured, the power released by them possesses the terrifying power to kill them, triggering an upheaval in an endless world. Martin really did it. How is it possible? This is the Court of Life. This is the Court of Life, the supreme regulator of the almighty universe. Death's face changed, and he screamed. She thought that Martin might survive this crisis and save his life from the Court of Life, although this result is ridiculous, but Martin, a mysterious man who is always covered in mist, seems to have an inexhaustible hole card, always able to find the breakthrough that is almost non-existent on any sinister occasion. But even if Martin is overestimated, the scene in front of her still subverts her three views, destroying her absolute confidence in the court of life. The life court was seriously injured. Supervising the almighty universe, the court of life with mysterious origins and unknown origins, was actually hit by Martin with a fist that was devastatingly severely injured? Annihilation. You know the origins of the court of life, then you must also know OAA. Oa, will you kill Martin? Death suddenly turned his head and stared at Annihilation. Many other gods, in their panic, also changed their expressions, looking towards Annihilation. Annihilation, the head of the 5 creation gods, super-universe level, has always been low-key and terrifying. He is also the second god who knows the existence of OAA besides Martin at the scene. Even death is the first time I heard the name OAA above all things. Give up. OAA is the ultimate of the whole known and unknown. It is an exhaustion of concept and non-concept, meaningful and meaningless existence. He created the court of life, but he doesn't care about the court of life at all. Annihilation voice is cold. For the existence of OAA, Annihilation also maintains a kind of awe and jealousy from the heart, incomprehensible and untouchable. He also knows more clearly that if he can create an almighty universe level like the life court at will, he will not care too much about the existence of the life court, and he will reappear when necessary, just recreate a life court number 2. Very simple thing. The skull face of death was gloomy. The other gods who listened also fell silent, chewing on this precious information, especially the knowledgeable gods on DC. That's right. This OAA is really of the same level as God, and the Marvel world is equivalent to the specifications of our DC world. Interesting. When Martin and the Life Tribunal decide the outcome, I have to explore the world seriously. Diaresis. At least you have to survive first. Maybe you will be killed by aftermath in a while, and the gods on Marvel will not let us go crazy. It's a big deal. This new multi-universe will be enough for me to explore for a long time. It will be a matter of time to go to other multi-universes in Marvel. If you stop me, then fight. Anyway, the damn wall of origin is still there. Blocked. Even if it is this kind of collision and integration between the two worlds, this damn wall still deadlocks our path to explore the DC Almighty Universe. I have no other choice but to go to Marvel. A DC god communicated, with a fierce light in his eyes. They have been trapped for 3 epochs, like canaries in a cage. They are going crazy long ago, and now there is a brand new almighty world before them. They explore this world and find more the unknown, willing to pay any price. At least it's better than going crazy or going up the wall of origins. Boom boom boom. The rays of light shattered one after another. In the center of that terrible battlefield, the terrible zone that interfered with the movement of the entire almighty universe, the battle between the 2 almighty universe gods finally came to an end. I said, "You will die here." Martin spoke. I said, "I will kill you and take everything from you so that I can truly understand the meaning of almighty universe level, and I will step on your corpse to go further." Supreme also said indifferently. They all looked at the staggering giant in front of them. The Supreme is desperate to kill the guy in front of him. There is no almighty universe god weaker than the life court in this world, and the life court is the best to kill. I am stuck at the upper limit of the shapeshifting King Kong multi-universe. It is the absolute limit to be able to reach the half-step omnipotence. If nothing happens, I can only be stuck at this level for the rest of my life. The Supreme had an unknown communication with Martin, and he said solemnly, "But you gave me a chance to truly explore almighty universe level, kill the court of life, plunder everything about him, and I can truly break that damn barrier, take that step. I will help you, because I also need you to become the almighty universe god as soon as possible. This is a mutually beneficial thing." Martin spoke directly. There had never been a war of this magnitude before he drove the Supreme Court of Life to the death, but Martin knew that this was just the beginning. Especially since he promoted the integration of the 2 worlds with one hand, the terrorist existences of the 2 worlds have all met, which will only make everything more dangerous. Since the glorious prelude of the almighty universe must be opened, it must be me who opened this unprecedented era with my own hands. Martin stepped forward with a cold complexion. His eyes showed a terrible fierce glow. He drove the Supreme to the front suddenly. 2 already scarred arms suddenly stretched out, hitting the court of life with one blow after another. The life court at this moment is staggering. His body is crooked and slanted. The trauma he has suffered is terrible, and it is an unprecedented injury. The terrible hollowness and corrosion in his chest are constantly losing his life. "Outsiders, you will be judged." The life court whispered. The supreme divine word spread, and was heard by every existence, but I don't know if it was an illusion. They clearly felt a kind of weakness from this divine word. The life cord is becoming weak. All the gods understood, and their expressions moved their eyes complicatedly, looking at the same huge mechanical god. He made it. Martin really did it, and step by step pushed the cord of life into a dead end. At least you will never be able to judge me. Martin sneered in a low voice and shot one after another, forcibly urging the Supreme, who was also full of scars, to go shopping with the life cord. Every time he shot, there was an explosion that seemed to be the same level as before, but the gods gradually realized that the life cord has changed. Got weak. Boom. There was a loud noise. The golden light collapsed. The life cord was lifted off with a bang. The huge mechanical body of the Supreme, although the damage was not light, but at this moment it suddenly rushed up, smashing the omnipotent light group, and the two arms pierced everything in a crash, firmly grasping the life cord. After all, your trial is not done by you. It's really a shame. Martin's voice came out, and he controlled his two arms and immediately blasted toward the chest of the cord of life. Among the terrifying power that exhausted everything, he surpassed the known realm, and exploded the strongest so far. One strike. At the same time, it was a blow to end this battle. It is a blow to completely bury this great god who supervises everything. Go to hell. The two arms grabbed directly from the hole in the chest. In the crazy roar that resounded through the endless world, the body and the rule were deduced to the extreme, and the clouds surged to the extreme, so that the supreme body unexpectedly appeared with a terrible popping sound. Seems to be overwhelmed by this overload. Hiss. The stone broke the sky and everything was silent. Die. With a frantic roar, the Supreme lifted the stalwart body of the cord of life, exhausted all his strength, and amidst the bang, a little bit, the cord of life was torn apart from the wound on the opponent's chest. Each tear, accompanied by the disintegration of endless light, and the exhaustion of that ubiquitous hymn, seems to indicate that this eternal God, who has run through the ages, has finally come to an end at this moment. The gods watched this scene with scalp numb, their eyes widened, and they watched the body of the cord of life being torn a little bit. In the end, after a roar, the cord of life was torn in half. It was not just the body that was destroyed. It is also the will and soul of the life cord. The moment Martin was tearing the other party, he had already started at the same time, bursting out his own mighty force to forcibly wipe out all the vital signs of the life cord. The endless hymn suddenly disappeared. The golden light in the sky dissipated instantly. Everything in the world has returned to darkness at this moment. It seems to be talking about the end of everything silently. In the same place, only the severely damaged mechanical god stood proudly in place, his icy eyes swept, and he watched everything indifferently. Every existence affected by this gaze trembled and couldn't help but take a step back. Almost couldn't help but want to turn around and escape. The cord of life is dead. There is a god roaring. With the spread of that terrifying coercion, the golden light that swept everything completely disappeared. A great god, at this moment, under the witness of countless gods, has completely fallen. The almighty cosmic god's life tribunal, standing in the Marvel World Billion Hail Month, overseeing the entire almighty universe, died in battle. This is an extremely crazy thing, and it is also an unprecedented, terrible event. In my memory, the existence of almighty universe level has never fallen. A god whispered, his eyes dignified and fearfully looked at the huge figure that stood proudly despite its brokenness. This is an unprecedented and terrifying fact, and it is also the largest event that has erupted in the Marvel world so far. With the complete death of an almighty cosmic god, this battle has brought down an endless frosty curtain. Countless gods were silent, and the gods closed their mouths tightly, staring silently at the only remaining existence in fear and panic. He really did it. He killed the cord of life, stepped on the corpse of the old almighty universe god to rise up, and promoted the collision and preliminary integration of the two almighty worlds with one hand. He really did it, and this man personally opened one. A new era destined to be brilliant and tragic. The phantom stranger appeared and disappeared, and shuttled among the gods like a ghost, raising his head from time to time, looking at Martin in amazement. Such existence, from wisdom to strength to consciousness and courage, is unheard of even in the DC world. Especially when he first came to Marvel Multi-Universe, he quickly swept through many worlds in Marvel with his strong willpower, and collected as much Martin information as possible. This is immortal, from the remote and backward planet of the Earth, rising step by step is immortal, strong and invincible. Every step he takes forward is stepping on the corpses of many ancient gods. What a terrible guy. From this moment on, Martin has firmly engraved his body shape on the foundation of the new multi-universe. His name and will be transformed into a pan-universe rule in the new world. Quietly circulating in the world, the new people, the world after the restart, will always unanimously portray Martin in their ancient memories and myths. This is the Almighty God of the universe. But this is never the end. Even if he defeats the existence of the Almighty Universe level of the Court of Life, it is still not the end. He has paid a painful price now. The unknown mechanical god has been broken. Martin himself is afraid he will also be severely injured. Such an unprecedentedly weak him will only give opportunities to those guys who have long been ready to move. Ghost's figure suddenly appeared next to the old partner of Phantom Moke. His illusory figure kept flashing, his indifferent face became cold, and he slowly spoke. Ghost has already had a preliminary understanding of the world of Marvel, but it is strange that according to the countless scattered information he has collected, especially the information that the countless universes have collapsed after the destruction, there is actually only one life in the knowledge of the Supreme God. Court. This filled Ghost's heart with doubts. In the Marvel world, there is only an Almighty Universe level for the Life Court. In a huge world with ultimate existence, why is there only one Almighty Universe level? This is not reasonable at all. Look at DC. Almighty Universe level grabs a lot. Several duplications and thugs of God in heaven, individual members of the Endless Family in hell, and the two giants of Beelzebub and Azadze have left the wall. The world has gone to Michael and Lucifer of the Almighty Universe, and the spirit of all things that gathers all the emotions of life. Both are Almighty Universe level. In comparison, Marvel is a bit too faulty. There is only the Life Court, and it is the weakest Almighty Universe level. The key is that it was created by the ultimate existence of OAA. It's too unreasonable. Either there is something hidden in it, for example, Almighty Universe levels are hiding one after another, or the Marvel world is still relatively immature, not as complete, developed and mature as the DC world. Ghost agrees more with the former, because there is a world in which the ultimate existence sits, and there is absolutely no immature situation. There must be some reason for this seemingly faulty situation. There will be some crazy guys sniping him, they will definitely. Ghost's voice is low, thinking about all this unreasonable, suppressing the doubts in his heart, staring at the supreme figure, and said in a low voice. As soon as his voice fell, the many beings who looked at Martin felt endless fear in their hearts, but were touched by this sense of disintegration and weakness, and instantly produced some dangerous but extremely attractive terrifying thoughts. Don't you do it. Infinite floated to the side of Oblivion, bewitching with a smile. Annihilation's eyes were indifferent, staring straight at everything in front of him, silent. Here, the size of Super Universe level is the most reason to do it, especially after the integration of the two worlds, the destruction and rebirth of the two multi-universes, integrate as one, and one of the existences that benefited the most. He is annihilated. At the moment, the huge mechanical figure that has never moved suddenly moved at the moment. There was a sneer. The matter in the Life Court has been settled. Now, does anyone want to do it? See how I beat you to death. This ferocious and bloodthirsty voice came out and swept the audience in an instant. There was another low creaking sound, and the broken body of the Supreme moved. Even so, it still broke out with a terrifying sense of oppression. Almighty Universe level is the theoretical end, omniscience and omnipotence, and the suppression of all non-Almighty Universe level levels is extremely terrible. The gods fell into a long silence in an instant. Why? No one dared to do it. This is a good opportunity. I am now as weak as ever. Martin sneered in a low voice. But still no one dared to move, everyone was just watching from a distance. If the madman from Khan was here, he would definitely do something to Martin. Indeed, when you said that, I remembered the terrible times dominated by Khan again. It was a total madman in neurosis. After all, it is the strongest new god in history, and it is the terrifying existence that has mastered the power of our DC world's origin. It has been so powerful that it is incredible. Otherwise, it would not be extremely confident to hit the wall of origin, but it is a pity. It's a pity that Darkseid's own father, the former ruler of Apocalypse, the invincible Yuga Khan, got stuck on the wall and couldn't get off anymore. The wall of origin, I don't know how many DC's high gods have been ruined. They began to divert their gazes drifted, and they fell straight on to the Marvel creation gods. Especially the Annihilation headed. If you want to do it, I'm not interested in this kind of thing. Annihilation said stiffly, lowered his head and looked down indifferently with a strange smile on his face. You have the same combat power as mine. After the integration of the two worlds, the biggest shackles that bound you no longer exist, and you can be anytime. The super cosmic god. You want to challenge Martin? I won't stop you. Now was his weakest time, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The annihilation sound was extremely cold, and after a cold snort, he left here straight away. His movements were clean and neat, without any hesitation. Infinite stayed in place, thought for a moment, smiled in a low voice, and left with him. The departure of these two is like a signal. More and more gods dare not provoke Martin at the moment, and they don't even know how strong this Martin is and what power it hides, so they choose flinched. Even the almighty cosmic gods in heaven and hell on the DC side just watched quietly and sighed with emotion. They suspiciously looked at the obviously wrong Marvel world, but directly ignored Martin. Killing such a weak almighty cosmic god is worthy of praise. Well, after all, it was a cross-border killing. It was really powerful, but after all, it was just a stronger ant, and they didn't care about Martin at all. Interesting. I will observe for a while, and then I will begin to explore the world. The fault is too obvious. There is only the life court. There must be something wrong. Anyway, it is also a huge world with the ultimate seat. Well, at present, it is indeed inferior to our DC Almighty Universe. Not to mention the Almighty Universe level fault, it seems that there is only OAA as the ultimate existence. We have two. These people talked unscrupulously, and if they were not omnipotent, they would not be able to touch the field of their conversation. After all, it was the level of omniscience and omnipotence. Only omniscient and omnipotent can understand the words of omniscience and omnipotence. Martin definitely listened to it, and laughed immediately, and the Supreme also showed a smile. With the broken face, it was particularly terrifying and scared away a lot of gods. These guys, if they still hold this arrogant and critical attitude of overlooking, they will be beaten to death. Martin almost laughed. Obviously, there is indeed only one life court in the Marvel world. However, all difficult and big incidents are caused by the life court jumping out and appearing very frequently. However, the life court simply does not rank. Even if the number of omnipotent cosmic gods is fighting, Marvel is no less than DC. What's more terrifying is that the very few guys on Marvel are really uncomprehending, incomprehensible, invincible, and unresolvable. However, no matter how powerful or invincible you are, those few hooks will be able to beat you to death on the spot. Ancient Destruction Day is already a top notch that DC can take out. It looks good, it evolves infinitely, immortal and immortal. But if you compare it with the top notch ones on Marvel, it feels like it's still a bit of a stalemate. It can be tied at best, but it is absolutely impossible to beat. It will only fall into an endless stalemate. Martin took a deep breath. Probably, some of the arrogant guys on the DC side might be killed. Thinking about this, Martin converged his strength and controlled the Supreme to directly return to his world. The huge universe with three multidimensional level universe shapeshifting King Kong seated in it, although it was also severely damaged in this big collision, but fortunately it was sheltered by Yuanshi Tianjun, Universe Great Emperor, and Godslayer, but it was reluctant to come over. Second generation gods of the idiots of the world tree, they attacked the world I created while I was not here. You are looking for death. Martin swiftly moved, barely mentioning the last power, trying his best to maintain the power of Almighty Universe level, and at the same time showed a deep sneer. During Martin's journey to the DC world, Cybertron indeed ushered in a rare period of peace. There are three multi-level universes of Yuanshi Tianjun, Universe Great, and God Killer. Looking at the entire Marvel multi-universe, they are already extremely powerful. You know, the second-generation Chaos Gods of the Megatron multi-universe world tree, it's just a multi-level universe. In addition, before Martin left, he slaughtered the Cosmic Deity Group severely, and killed several high-level members of the Cosmic Deity Group one after another, which greatly shocked the endless world. The longest peace in exchange for iron and blood and killing, provided Martin can stay in town forever. As time went on, the silence of Cybertron finally aroused some suspicion. Gradually, the underworld god Sithorn and the snake god Set finally couldn't help but start their hands. The two guys colluded and continued to harass the Cybertronian universe. The more you fight, the more courage you are. Until the beginning of the terrorist war spreading to the multi-universe, the second-generation gods of the world tree, led by the two chaos gods Sithorn and Set, launched an attack on Cybertron. The battle was extremely fierce, and the war lasted a long time, but Martin, who had not shown up for a long time, still attracted the attention of interested people. Damn it. Damn it. Martin, this bastard, turned out not to be in Cybertron, and he went to other almighty worlds. In countless destructions and rebirths, Sithorn and Seth fled in a hurry. Martin, who returned strongly, hit the two worlds in one fell swoop and was promoted to the super cosmic god. Sithorn and Seth were really daring. Crack. Fear overwhelmed everything. The two chaos gods are going crazy in horror. Why is he so strong? How long has it taken to become a super universe level god? Sithorn, you bastard, you have pitted me. I'm here to follow you to devour the new Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of the New Order is not here to accompany you to die. Seth cursed, and the nine-headed snake body moved quickly. But not long before he escaped, Martin went straight on the spot and forcibly went to war with the Court of Life. Seth was completely mad, with 9 snake heads shaking, 9 pairs of eyes with bloodthirsty red lights, while running away, while biting at Sithorn viciously. What are you doing? Sithorn was furious. I killed you, idiot. In the past so many years, you are still the same stupid. You actually went to provoke such a terrible guy. When the war ended, you idiot was holding me back. Seth scolded. Back then, in the glorious era of the second generation of gods, his serpent god Set was the first to discover that he could quickly become stronger by swallowing other gods. Then Sithorn also joined him, and finally the two of them went to war with the camp represented by Osit and Gia. As a result, he was defeated by the killing machine born by Gia, and he had to flee in embarrassment. After so many years, Sithorn found him, and the two of them joined forces again, intending to divide Yuan Shi Tianjun and Universe Emperor, but who would think? Martin has grown to this extent. At the moment, a cry came out, everything was silent. The Court of Life has fallen. Seth was even more mad in his heart, shaking huge amounts of snake tail, constantly shuttled in this new world, swimming as far as possible to the deeper and more hidden areas. You two. Where do you want to go? Martin's cold voice suddenly came. He killed the Life Court, and after condensing all the legacy of the Life Court, he immediately came directly at these guys who were crazy about doing things while he was not there. It's not me. It's Sithorn. Everything was planned by the bastard Sithorn. I don't know anything. Set was the first to roar, and 9 heads showed horrified expressions, shaking all over. Driving the supreme Martin, but a real almighty universe god, even the Court of Life died in his hands. Sithorn's face was ugly, and all his power burst out in silence, black magic gushing out, and chaos force gushing out, trying to escape. He had huge amounts of old grudges with Martin, and he knew that Martin would not let him go. Go and die. I grabbed huge amounts of my palm, and immediately pierced through all the truth and falsity. There was no time and space to block this blow. Everywhere I went, countless worlds were penetrated, as if there was no existence at all. The mechanical palm grabbed it, and in a crash, the 2 ancient chaos gods were included in the scope. The desperate resistance of these 2 people hit the surface of the palm without causing any waves of waves. Snapped. In a sudden grip, the 2 beings immediately screamed, as if they were 2 helpless chicks, and Martin grabbed them. Assault my world while I am away, you 2 reptiles. How do you want to die? Martin sneered and looked at the 2 beings that fell into his hands. I take refuge in you and become your most loyal subordinate. Seth screamed, twisting and struggling desperately. Me too, I am willing to atone for my original actions. Sithorn also had a look of horror and regret. Before he could finish his words, the shadow of huge amounts of suddenly struck. Click it. A soft sound. Sithorn was immediately crushed by Martin. Seth was scared to death. Seeing that Sithorn, who had been fighting and cooperating with him for so many years, was killed by Martin, Setter was devastated. I am willing to serve you and completely offer my loyalty. Seth wailed, and his 9 heads flicked desperately, expressing surrender and begging for mercy. Martin at this moment is even more terrifying than the posture of facing the Court of Life just now. At the moment, he is really dragging the corpse of an almighty universe god across the boundary. I don't need you at all, the snake that devours the world. The original mythology that resounded through countless universes has never been there. Martin looked down indifferently, sneered repeatedly, reached out his hand again, and grabbed it. Seth screamed frantically, but many gods just stayed away and watched, and no one dared to come over to stop him. No one dares to stand in front of Martin at this moment. Snapped. There was a crisp sound, as if it had killed a fly. The zombie set was dead, and Martin squeezed it open with one hand. Huh. As this chaos force. Martin touched his chin and got the original power of this Marvel multi-universe from the corpses of Sithorn and Set. It turns out that the part of chaos force that Sithorn was smashed by me was actually given by this Set. It is indeed a greedy snake. Martin shook his head, and then he didn't take these 2 guys to heart anymore. He left here while his body was moving. In the surrounding area, countless worlds are slowly being formed, which are transformed into brand new worlds according to the rematched universe rule. After a while, a tall but illusory figure appeared. Sithorn is finally dead. Although this method of death is not what I wanted. One of Waishandi, the god of white magic, Osit said indifferently. It's Martin again. He killed the beholder last time, and now kills Sithorn again. Anyway, we are a big deal. Hogs spoke lowly. Agomoto chuckled softly. It's okay, anyway, we are no longer in his eyes, and it is the right thing to reap the harvest. Once Sithorn is dead, we will no longer have any obstacles. Yes, the god of black magic will be transferred here, and the size of Emperor Waishan of the Trinity. From now on, a specification of the god of black magic will be added. Hogs was a little excited at once. The indescribable beholder was originally their #1 mortal enemy. After the beholder was killed, they had hit all their energy to deal with Sithorn, killed Sithorn and seized the power of black magic. Then Wei Shandi it will integrate white magic and black magic, and leap forward again. In this way, Emperor Waishan, the source of magic in the Marvel world, will eliminate one from now on. Wait a minute. Have you noticed? Osit spoke suddenly. Hogs and Agmoto also became vigilant, and Wei Shandi's huge magical body also moved, turning his head directly and looking in a certain direction. They perceived in the dark that a specious source of magic exists in an unknown area in the distance. The magic system carried by this source is slightly different from their Trinity Waishandi system, but the specifications are the same. This is the source of magic in another world? Is it the source of magic in the DC world? It's really good or bad news. I don't know who the source of this magic is. The three beings were communicating with each other, behaving extremely seriously. At this time, a gentle voice came. The source of magic in the DC world is an existence called the Inverted Man. He is the source of magic in the world inside the wall. The phantom Moker quietly appeared not far from Emperor Waishan. This strange and silently imperceptible appearance immediately caused Emperor Waishan's vigilance. Diaresis? Don't be so nervous. I heard that you were very interested in turning people upside down, so I came to get to know. My name is Phantom Stranger, a guy with no past. Phantom Stranger took off his gentleman hat and bowed gracefully to salute. Emperor Wei Shan didn't dare to look down upon this guy at all. How much do you know about reversal? Osit spoke after a moment of silence. Phantom Stranger smiled. In exchange, how much do you know about Martin? I'm very curious about what happened to him before, especially, you just said that he killed a guy called Beholder. I'm very interested in it. Then exchange it, it's fair. Agomoto also chuckled softly. Phantom Moker nodded in satisfaction, and directly began to tell the relevant information about the Upside Down Man. The Upside Down Man originated from the unknown of the world outside the wall, and brought the power of magic to the world inside the wall. In order to relieve the Upside Down Man's threat to the world inside the wall, my partner Ghost also began to wipe out the entire world inside the wall. Magical power, even though it failed in the end. Martin ignores these guys talking. Similar things will only increase, and the gods of the two worlds will inevitably have exchanges and wars. Now Martin has more important things to do. Well, I didn't expect it to be so badly damaged. On Cybertron, Martin looked at the Supreme with solemn expression. In the battle with the Court of Life, although Martin is the last victor, the traumas suffered by the Supreme has reached an alarming level. Just parsing the scars, it makes me feel scared. Yuan Shi Tianjun scanned the condition of Supreme. Although 90% of the concepts he couldn't understand, the only point he discovered gave him an extremely powerful sense of oppression. Is this the terrible thing about the Almighty Universe God? Don't worry, when I have completely digested everything in the Life Court, I will be promoted to Super Universe level, and everything will no longer be a problem. The Supreme Voice said calmly. Many high-level Cybertronians gathered together, looking at Martin and Supreme with excitement. They didn't expect Martin to come back suddenly, and also caused such huge amounts of waves, killing the Court of Life in one fell swoop. You are already a super large universe god, plus the Supreme, you can fight against the Almighty Universe God. The Universe Emperor let out a low laugh. I think even the 5 great creation gods who are above you will go around you. Go. Martin showed a faint smile. This is just the beginning. When I rely on my own strength to become Almighty Universe level, everything will bow in front of me. In front of everyone is the huge corpse of the Court of Life. At this moment, the Supreme is constantly devouring and analyzing all of this. Every moment passes, most of him has learned of countless information and secrets. Supreme, the distance has entered the Almighty Universe level. Every moment has taken a big leap in the past, he just needs such an opportunity. Soon, Martin took everyone away, leaving everything to the Supreme himself. Wanda, this is your thing. Martin called Wanda over, then took out the Chaos Force, raised his hand and hit Wanda's body. Roar. In the next moment, a coercion full of chaos broke out. The three multi-level universes immediately dispersed the crowd, surrounded Wanda, and blocked this terrible wave of disorderly outbreaks. This kind of outbreak is comparable to Chaos Wave. Martin touched his chin and looked at this scene, smiled. The person in charge of Chaos Force, the top attack is Chaos Wave. One strike can restart the multi-universe. Although Chaos Force is complete, it depends on you whether you can truly master it. Don't forget, this is Sithorn's power after all. Martin smiled faintly. Wanda, who has long been shrouded in endless red light, slowly raised her head and said in a deep voice, "I won't let you down." Boom. Wanda began to suppress and swallow Chaos Force. As Sithorn's selected pawn, she naturally has a sense of affinity and familiarity with Chaos Force. At this moment, after getting the complete Chaos Force, she no longer needs to hesitate. After Sithorn's death, she was the natural leader of Chaos Force, and there was no one. Along with the bursts of red light beams, this terrifying force that should have caused the endless world to produce distortions and distortions, at this moment, under the blockade of the three multi-universe gods of Cybertron, is only confined to this small area. Middle. When the Chaos Force's fluctuation reached a peak, Wanda's will finally found a way to barely control this force. Next moment, the endless beams began to converge, and eventually, all of them were swallowed by Wanda. A powerful and diverse level universe coercion suddenly broke out at this moment, sweeping everything in a sudden. Many gods immediately looked up, with complex expressions. They clearly felt that a brand new multi-level universe god was born. Very well, Wanda. A smile appeared on Martin's face, and he gave a compliment. Now he actually doesn't like Chaos Force anymore, and has reached the level of super universe level. To a large extent, he no longer needs to waste time on the power of multiple level universe. Especially, it is Chaos Force. If it is Phoenix Force and Fairy Force, Martin is really willing to take a shot, but Chaos Force is fine. I don't know where the power of the fairies is hidden. The bastards of the universe celestial group always hide the good things they can't use. Martin looked cold. According to the content in the comics, the power of the goblin that swallowed everything was sealed by the universe gods long ago. But it does not matter, the power of super universe level is now enough. Martin has enough time to calmly get what he wants. Just when everything began to fall silent, the turmoil of the death of the Court of Life and the birth of the New World began to ferment further, triggering even greater waves. The Wall of Origin has already suffered huge amounts of impact, especially the world inside the wall that was blocked by this wall. Martin actually broke the gap in this way, causing an unprecedented impact with Marvel Multi-Universe. The Wall of Origin itself has also suffered terrible effects. Over the past 100 million hail, the terrifying absorbent power of this wall has swallowed countless gods, and no existence has ever been able to break free after being on the wall. But at this moment, through this unprecedented collision and drastic change, after the Wall of Origin was affected, there was such a slight fluctuation that was undetectable. This is from the impact of Marvel Multi-Universe's completely different otherworld system. This made the figure on the wall that had been planning for a long time, finally no longer patient, and began to break free. Boom. In the end, there was a loud noise, followed by bursts of wild laughter. I'm Yuji Khan, I'm back. The huge shock of the power of Origin, faintly, directly caused a trace of vibration and roar response in the entire Wall of Origin. Yuji Khan, the father of Darkseid, and the last Apocalypse Star Master, who is in charge of the power of the origin of horror and mystery, took the opportunity to break free at this moment. He actually did it. The first existence ever to break free from the Wall of Origin, he actually did it. As expected to be the strongest new god, the Wall of Origin has been sleeping for a long time, trying to reduce the extraction power of the Wall of Origin in various ways, but at this moment, they are awakened one after another, looking at Yuga Khan in shock, with a look of horror. Before, they had barely noticed the changes in the world inside the wall, but because of the Wall of Origin, all information and changes were swallowed up by the Wall of Origin, so the perception was extremely vague, and they only knew that they had hit a new world. Unexpectedly, Yuga Khan actually took the opportunity to break away from the Wall of Origin. Yuga Khan, pull us down. As long as you drag us down, we are willing to obey your orders. Some gods roared. Yuga Khan looked at them violently and sneered. A bunch of idiots. What are you guys worthy of calling me? Boom. Yuja Khan directly smashed the past with a fist, and with a fierce punch, he blasted an ancient god nearby. With a scream, he turned it into pure energy and rule. The next moment he was killed. The wall of origin was swallowed up. The entire wall of origin fell silent for an instant, and all the gods looked at this existence with fear. Huh. That's right, you can live a long time by shutting up earlier. With a grinning smile, Yuji Khan burst out with terrifying origin powers, brewing all the mysterious powers of origin, and suddenly overwhelmed everything in a sudden explosion. In the next second, this statue was tall and decorated with the remains of Taoist gods. At this moment, it flew out and directly broke free of the absorbent range of the wall of origin, and rushed into the realm of gods. The power of Dao origin swept the endless world, and in this way he announced his return to the world. The realm of God is shaking. Yuga Khan, this crazy tyrant, did this guy break free from the wall of origin? The first person in 3 eras. If he could break free earlier, I'm afraid that countless gods will find him, so forget it now. It has integrated with the Marvel world, and there is Marvel Almighty Universe for us to explore, more than enough. There is no need to smash with the wall of origin. Some of the gods on the DC side looked at Yuga Khan in astonishment, but soon calmed down. Come back when you come back, it's my shit. Anyway, we have the Marvel world. Oh? Uxas actually died? My rubbish son did not disappoint me. Yuja Khan collected a lot of information instantly, and suddenly laughed. Uxas is the real name of Darkseid. After being killed by Martin, there is only a bunch of duplication left. Yuga Khan quickly stopped paying attention. A stupid son, he was so stupid, he was too lazy to pay attention to it, and even the captured Apocalypse Star didn't bother to pay attention to it, and he ran directly to this newly born new world. It's so charming. The brand new world will be my battlefield for Yuga Khan. Yuja Khan laughed wildly, the power of origin burst out, and he immediately began to looting everything in this new world, and with the power of origin, he began to frantically swallow everything that transformed here. The power of origin is a power peculiar to Gahan, and it is also the only mysterious power that is suspected to be connected to the wall of origin in the land of origin. Can be the next moment. A powerful and destructive attack suddenly struck, and suddenly interrupted his unscrupulous swallowing process. The guy who walked down the wall of origin, don't be too mad. Annihilation came from nothingness, with an indifferent expression on his face. Is Marvel the strongest creation god on this side? Yuga Khan looked at Annihilation with a vicious look, smiling grinningly. Now he is the strongest creator god in the 2 worlds. Annihilation Hansheng said, after integrating the DC world, his strength has gone further and he has gone further on the road to super universe level. Then from now on, there will be no creation god, because you will be originated by me soon. Yuji Khan laughed and rushed directly to Annihilation. Boom boom boom. A war broke out, and the top existences of the 2 super universe levels fought at this moment. Origination and Annihilation, the 2 extremely destructive power systems, produced extremely terrible destructive power in their collisions, and the 2 became their respective worlds. The top-level existence under the omnipotence, and they all control the top-level power system. In the full-scale shot, the scope of the impact is simply horrible. Oh? That fellow Yuga Khan has come down from the wall of origin? It's much faster than I thought. Cybertron. Martin touched his chin, thoughtfully, and looked up to the center of the fierce battlefield. Factory. Martin sat steadily, watching the battle with interest. It can even be said that this is the pinnacle of super universe level, the strongest super level battle between the 2 worlds. Even Martin at this moment, if he doesn't use the Supreme, he can't defeat Annihilation and Yuga Khan. Be careful, that Yuga Khan will definitely find you. You have brought people's Apocalypse Star here. Next to him, Sai Tianzhao was carrying the hammer of Tianzhao and clanging on a crystal broken blade, repairing the broken star sword little by little, and said at the same time. Then let him come, just so, I am very interested in the power of DC's origin. Martin smiled faintly and watched the big show quietly. As time went on, the battle became more fierce, and more gods noticed the war and watched. A long time passed. Annihilation took the lead to retreat. Only Yuga Khan remained in place, his face uncertain. This guy, the more he fights, the stronger. Yuji Khan looked at the annihilated figure with a gloomy face. If the 2 of them continue to fight, it is difficult to tell the result. Forget it. Since this guy ran away first, just go around him. Yuji Khan gave a cold snort, turned around, looked up into the distance for a moment, and had a panoramic view of this newly born super-large multi-universe scene, and saw the eternal theme: countless superhero and super-criminals fight each other, and immediately lost interest. He stared directly at Martin. This human named Martin killed his son Darkseid with one hand and ruled the Apocalypse Star. He is a guy worth killing. Using that robot named Supreme to kill Marvel's Court of Life. Huh. The kind of Court of Life, weak and pitiful, similar to the two giants in hell. It is only a matter of time before I reach this level. Then, Supreme is damaged. Seriously, it's okay to take the opportunity to kill Martin. Yuji Khan let out bursts of creepy low laughter, full of malice. He is full of interest in Martin, a human who has caused a huge wave of waves. In Roar's roar, his body flickered, and Yuga Khan had already appeared on the periphery of the shape-shifting King Kong universe. Looking at the world protected by the majestic and mighty force ahead, Khan gave a sneer, and a terrifying origin ray shot directly in his eyes, with the terrifying power of analyzing and dissolving everything, and instantly hit the front. Snapped. A red ray suddenly appeared, and when it emerged violently, it directly confronted Yuga Khan's blow, and a terrible tsunami broke out. The Omega Effect. You are embarrassed to take out this inferior power? Yuga Khan whispered with a wild laugh. Although the level of power is not high, it is enough to disgust you as an idiot. Even Darkseid is smarter than you. An awe-inspiring murderous intent came from the shape-shifting King Kong universe, and it rose rapidly. Martin stepped out of the shape-shifting King Kong universe and stared indifferently at Yuga Khan. His deep gaze moved straight to the unprecedentedly powerful tyrant in front of him. Yuji Khan, the strongest in the history of the new Protoss, the top existence of the third era of DC, a terrifying existence that claims to increase the combat power ceiling of the entire new Protoss by an order of magnitude, and an unprecedented brutal tyrant. In the comics, the first thing this guy did to break free from the Wall of Origin was to return to Apocalypse. As a result, the powerful and steady Dax immediately turned around instinctively when he saw Yuga Khan run away. This is an unprecedented brutal guy. You opened the door to a new world for me, and it can be regarded as indirectly helping me to break free from the Wall of Origin. In return, I will squeeze your head with my own hands. Gawkin laughed wildly, his eyes were blood red, and his body was made of the bones of unknown gods. At the moment, when they collided with each other, they made a crisp sound, which was extremely pleasing to the ears. It's like a chapter played by Death God. You are not my opponent, unless you take the Supreme out. However, I think that the Supreme should be in a critical period of digesting the Life Court and cannot be easily used. The injuries on his body do not allow him to act at will. You are dead. Ends. The powerful force of the Kakan's powerful origins is rapidly metamorphosis, and it is always absorbing the rule system belonging to Marvel, originating from a single DC. Gradually moving towards a newer, more powerful and magnificent origin. Martin looked steady behind his hands and said indifferently, "Stupid idiot, deal with you. You are not worthy to let me take action. My subordinates are enough to kill you into scum." Oh? Yuji Khan laughed wildly and was about to say something, but in the next instant, his face suddenly stopped, and his eyes quickly fell on a big black figure that suddenly rushed out of the shape-shifting King Kong universe. Ancient Destruction Day. Yuji Khan's complexion sank, and no matter how confident this unprecedentedly powerful tyrant was, he also showed a look of surprise and inconceivability at this moment. Roar. The Ancient Destruction Day roared to the sky, slammed out in a sudden, and went straight to Yuga Khan. The day of Ancient Destruction was very positive. After Martin gave an order, he immediately rushed to Yuga Khan, violently violent. This monster has been held back for too long. Since following Martin has been suppressing its desire and instinct to kill. In every recent war, the day of Ancient Destruction has never taken action. The instinct of evolution has driven it almost mad. Go. Doom. The idiot in front of you is your prey. Kill him, you will become a super cosmic god, and you will be a big step forward on the road of evolution. Martin carried his hands on his back, looking lonely as a master, and said something casually. His voice revealed plainness. The Ancient Destruction Day had already killed Yuga Khan, as if it were a black meteorite. This is the Ancient Day of Destruction. What method did you use to conquer this brainless monster? Yuji Khan frowned and snorted coldly, but he didn't have the slightest fear, and even with a curiosity about the monster like the Ancient Destruction Day, he took a step forward and started directly. This was also his first contact with the Ancient Destruction Day, and he had only heard the name of the Ancient Destruction Day before. Boom. A fierce collision erupted, and the Day of Ancient Destruction was immediately smashed into flesh by Yuga Khan. That's it. Yuga Khan sneered and looked at the day of ancient destruction that quickly began to resurrect, and immediately shot again and crashed into it. But this time, the day of ancient destruction was just a roar, and he just withstood Yuga Khan's attack. I saw a skeletal white barb madly growing from the ancient destruction day, and being stimulated by a single strike, it drove it to launch a new round of terrifying evolution. Every moment, the genes in the body are going on. Hundreds of millions of combinations adapt and evolve the ability of confrontation. At the same time, the closed energy circulation system in its body also begins to circulate hundreds of millions of times, sublimating the energy index by geometric multiples. In an instant, the day of ancient destruction was resurrected, and he just stubbed the impact of Yuga Khan again. The two tall monsters erupted in fierce fighting, and there was another loud noise, which was punched out by Ka Khan with a grinning smile. This horrible punch was enough to squeeze a multi-universe. At this moment, they all smashed into the day of destruction, bang. With a sound, the head of the ancient destruction day was smashed. The next moment, the resurrection will begin again. Interesting, it's no wonder that so many guys are terrified just hearing your name, you really deserve their praise. Yuga Khan punched it again, and this time smashed the ancient destruction sun into the air, but the same power could no longer hurt the opponent. This almost weird to unreasonable rate of evolution, even Yuga Khan was shocked. He saw with his own eyes that after being killed twice by him on the day of ancient destruction, the level skyrocketed and he instantly reached the top of the multi-level universe. How terrible is this ability? Good ability, it's mine. Let me see the nature of your system. A ray of light flashed in Yuga Khan's eyes, and the power of origin suddenly gushed out, instantly enveloping the ancient day of destruction, invading frantically, and began to forcibly analyze everything about this monster. Especially the interpretation of such a terrible gene chain, with the original power of the origin of all things, to tear open all the mysteries in front of you. This is Yuga Khan's greatest confidence, he is in charge of the power of DC origin. Soon, I will know all your mysteries, and then find a way to evolve your genes with the power of origin and become my thing. Yuga Khan sneered and whispered. His eyes moved, he had seen the magnificent and changeable day of the ancient ruin, and the terrifying scene of endless mutations all the time. Haven't waited for Yuga Khan to laugh happily. The ancient destruction day has already uttered a crazy roar, that endless mutant gene chain, at this moment, suddenly began a brand new change, in the rapid evolution, actually has the ability to resist the erosion and prying of the power of origin? How can this be? Yuga Khan's eyes widened and he screamed in disbelief. What the hell is this, evolving, it can still evolve like this. The life form born in the future will infinitely evolve to shield the initial mighty power of innate origin? Idiot, Martin sneered. How else would you say, the day of annihilation is one of DC's biggest bugs? If it weren't for the dazzling infinite evolution and the indestructible combination of ability, Martin would not have spent so much effort to enslave it. Such a monster, how did you subdue it? Yuga Khan looked gloomy and looked at Martin violently. Martin just sneered. With indescribable power, he modified the concept in an all-round way with slavery that is not slavery, and from the beginning, he did not harm the ancient day of destruction, and thus did not suffer the backlash of infinite evolution ability. It is really stupid to work like this by Ka Khan. Forcibly breaking through the barrier to conduct research with the power of origin will be regarded as an invasion and provocation by the gene instinct of the destruction day, which will trigger a fierce counter-reaction of the gene chain. Roar. The eyes of the ancient destruction day were bloodshot, and the body vibrated, which directly dissipated the restraint of the power of origin. In the frenzied roar, the ancient destruction day had already killed Yuga Khan. What made Yuga Khan even more stunned was that he actually felt the specious aura of origin from this monster. This is the third type of ability of the ancient destruction day, and it is also the ability that is easily overlooked study. Or plagiarism. As long as the attack that strikes it, regardless of its various forms, it will be learned by the ancient doomsday and will quickly evolve into counter ability. Super learning ability is part of the infinite evolution concealed. Yuga Khan, when you are done, you will become the food evolved from the ancient destruction day. Martin sneered. Facing the completely unreasonable day of ancient destruction, I watched this monster stubbornly analyze its origin power and showed signs of countermeasures. Rao was a terrifying tyrant like Ka Khan, and was stunned at this moment. His mind roared, and he was immediately lost in huge amounts of confusion. In this world, there will be such an outrageous monster? Even the strength of his own origin can't take advantage of such a monster? No species can break free from the shackles of origin, but you monster, why? You shouldn't exist. Gahan was extremely angry, and the loud roar came out. This terrible sound wave and the original capacity of the distortion rule alone caused the distortion and total collapse of countless universes. Many gods are watching this battle, and Marvel is still quite stable. Although shocked by the weirdness and horror of this ancient day of destruction, considering that Martin can conquer the ancient day of destruction, he is immediately relieved. They are not the same as the gods on the DC side. The gods of Marvel almost watched Martin grow rapidly, and slaughtered one great existence after another along the way. What they really want to say, they have a certainty about everything Martin does. Ability of psychological endurance. But the gods on DC fell into a weird silence. This is from Ka Khan. Before he failed to kill the creation god called Oblivion, I was already surprised that this can be forcibly explained as the integration of the two worlds provides an entirely new growth area for Oblivion, but now this. The day of ancient destruction has completely become Martin's loyal dog. Can even the power of origin evolve into a confrontational or even countermeasure ability? But such a monster, on what basis did Martin conquer it? This is also a point that the gods couldn't understand even if they wanted to break their heads. They know better than the gods on Marvel's side the terrifying and incomprehensible ancient day of destruction, but what method did Martin use to subdue it? Boom boom boom. The terrible battle continued, and the gods silently saw that the ancient destruction day was becoming stronger at an exaggerated speed. In the end, with a hysterical roar, the bottleneck was shattered like a moat. Absolutely violent super-universe level exists, and another one is born. The ancient destruction day rushed towards Yuga Khan frantically. The level of the whole body has reached the super-universe level, basically standing at the same level as Yuga Khan. The powerful hot sight erupted in his eyes, and it could actually follow Yuga Khan as the origin beam reluctantly confronted the boom. Under the violent heavy punch, Yuga Khan confronted with a gloomy face. After fighting for a while, he finally couldn't bear it and felt that it was impossible to go on like this. You damn monster. With a blow from Ka Khan, the ancient destruction day was blasted away, and immediately in his ugly face, he turned and killed Martin. I can't kill this monster, but it's more than enough to kill you. Yuga Khan laughed out loud. You sure? Martin sneered in a low voice, stepped straight out, and started to face Yuga Khan. He has always had a very interesting idea, and now it is just to take advantage of this cruel idiot, Yuga Khan, to try it out. Poof sizzle, a line of origin suddenly struck, with unprecedented awe-inspiring and murderous intent, looking at Martin from the blood-red eyes of Ka Khan, with a will to kill. The heart is even more angry and suffocated. He escaped from the wall of origin and created history. He was originally going to descend and rampage this brand new world with an absolutely powerful posture. As a result, the opponents he encountered were trickier than one, and they were deflated one after another. Snapped. A sneer appeared at the corner of Martin's mouth, his hands suddenly closed, and the fire source suddenly jumped. In the next instant, two huge amounts of satellites began shapeshifting, turning into two giants, one silver and one gold, and they strode forward. Diaresis? Mobilize the dregs of two multi-level universe, are you mad? Yuga Khan sneered, turned around and punched the ancient destruction day again. Taking advantage of this gap, he successively blasted even more powerful origin rays to completely wipe out Martin here. Keep your eyes open and watch, idiot. The magic of this world is beyond your imagination. Martin chuckled in a low voice. The next moment, the two fast-forward giants, Yuanshi Tianjun and the Great Universe, suddenly slammed into Martin from the left and right directions. Buzzing. The power of order and chaos suddenly emerged, and was suddenly absorbed by Martin. At the moment when the two great shape-shifting ancestors of King Kong were drawn by the fire source as the medium, the power of order and chaos was intertwined with Martin. Boom. A brand new impact erupted, and in this gap, a faint golden light flew out of the shape-shifting King Kong universe and merged into Martin's body. In the next moment, the biting rays of light collided crazily, and in the next moment, an endless and deep existence was already standing in place. The god of law and reason Logos. A miracle born under the Marvel system. It was the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Order, and the Middleman, who took advantage of the 7 multi-universe gods to attack the Court of Life when they were besieging the first firmament after the resurrection, and then the 4 of them integrated into a brand new one in one fell swoop. Gods. That is Logos. Although Logos was only a surprise in the comics, it has to be said that its power really left a deep impression on people. But now, the Lord of Chaos and the Lord of Order have been swallowed. Martin uses himself as a medium to replace the position of the middleman, and integrates into a brand new Logos in one fell swoop. What is this? Yuji Khan looked at the golden existence in front of him in astonishment. The golden lines keep walking on the surface of the body, as if there is life, exuding a kind of strange and stalwart fluctuations. Yuka Khan, you asked for this. I told you that you are an idiot, and you can't even solve the ancient ruin day. Where did the courage come to provoke me? Are you locked in the wall of origin? Martin's voice came out. He controlled Logos's rapid movement with a huge and tenacious will, stepped out, and directly crossed countless worlds, and suddenly came in front of Yuga Khan. Go to hell. Yuja Khan grinned and raised his hand to blast out a beam of origin. But the next moment, his expression froze, only to see that this mysterious existence named Logos just raised his hand at will, and in a crash, he just caught the erasure of the power of origin. Yuka Khan, die here, and I will accept the power of your origin. Martin sneered, and instantly pierced the power of origin's attack, mobilizing the terrifying power of Logos, the ability to analyze all laws, and used all of it at this moment, suppressing the powerful power of origin for a short time. Roar. At this time, the day of ancient destruction also swiftly came back, rushing violently at Yuga Khan. The two existences besieged Yuga Khan, piercing countless realms, and this multi-universe was devastated in a mess. Even more, countless unlucky gods were drawn in, and they turned into ashes with a scream. What the hell is this? Logos can actually fight against the power of origin and suppress Yuga Khan frontally. What is Logos? Some gods were stunned by this scene, and watched these three figures pierce through countless worlds, and even the realm of the gods above them were affected, and countless small and medium-sized worlds were directly not destroyed. Even if the ancient destruction day is strong, Martin suddenly becomes a strange god named Logos. What is going on? Some gods directly inquired about the ancient existence on Marvel's side, asking for news about Logos. But the Marvel gods are also confused and at a loss. They don't know what Logos is. The birth of Logos is extremely abrupt, but it gives people a sense of reason. The gods are all in the dark. I was aware that this Logos was a product in the Marvel world. Logos. Martin actually formed the Logos. Eternally watching this scene in horror, his gaze fell on Martin, staring hard. He definitely knew Logos. As the one who attacked and killed the first firmament, he was very clear about many secret information in the Marvel world. When he saw Logos, he was shocked. Is there anything Martin doesn't know? Martin, the damn outsider, why can he form the Logos? It is destined that no one will answer his questions. Boom. There was a loud noise. Yuji Khan roared and was bombarded with a blow, exploding a large number of universes, slightly embarrassed. This tyrant looked at everything in front of him with a gloomy face. His confidence was suppressed by huge amounts of at this moment. Ancient day of destruction, and this Logos. What are they? Don't try to escape, no one can save you. Martin sneered and killed again. The ancient destruction sun beat his chest and roared frantically, with a hot sight blasted from his eyes. Hiss. Yuja Khan desperately resisted, but in front of two existences no less than him, he has already fallen into the disadvantage. Especially the most powerful origin power is restricted, and the rules of the Marvel world have not been truly analyzed. Swallowed, the growth power of origin power came to an abrupt end. Boom. Logos' slender body appeared in front of Yuga Khan in an instant, and in the depths of his palm, the noble golden light appeared in his hands. In a sudden, he would be knocked back by the Khan. There was damage to Yuga Khan's tall figure, and blood spurted from his mouth. Next moment, the day of ancient destruction leapt forward and smashed Yuja Khan's head with a fierce punch, which would be hit hard by Yuja Khan immediately. Logos shot again, accurately grasping the moment of the gap. His hands directly stuck Yuja Khan's neck. The next moment he tore it fiercely, and directly tore off Yuja Khan's head. The terrible roar spread throughout the world, completely shocking both the Marvel and DC worlds. At the moment Yuga Khan died in battle, many ancient existences were sensed in the dark. After careful investigation, I was surprised to see Yuga Khan's corpse lying in the starry sky. This. Yuga Khan actually died. The strongest new god in history, the brutal monster in the Third Age that is close to the Son of the Age, was actually killed by that Martin. The son was killed by Martin, and now even his father is killed by Martin. It is really a horror story that is almost catastrophic. HMPH. This is also his arrogance, especially after coming down from the wall of origin. He doesn't put the current gods in his eyes at all. With this kind of fate, he can only say that he deserves it. The times have changed. Hi. Martin is extracting the power of origin from Yuga Khan, and the power of origin has also fallen into Martin's hands. This guy is getting stronger and stronger. I haven't figured it out until now. What exactly is this logo? What principle, and how did it suddenly appear? Only by relying on the two pluralistic level universe gods of chaos and order, can they synthesize the logos together? Don't forget that noble golden light, I'm afraid it is the Court of Life. What key information Martin got through the body of the Court of Life, but we don't even know. Perhaps, the logos in front of me are not in a complete form. After the Supreme has completely digested all the power of the Life Court, he will become Almighty Universe level. How terrifying will the combat power come out? Martin, a human being, hides too deep, too terrible. Never know what anti-killing means this guy is hiding. A god looked at this scene in shock, falling into a long silence. In this regard, the gods on Marvel's side have acted a lot more steadily, because they have received too much horror and too much bizarre from Martin. Huh. A bunch of idiots who have never seen the world, they are all terrapins. A Marvel god opened his mouth with a sneer, and glanced at the DC god with disdain, feeling a sense of superiority inexplicably. The aftermath of the death of Khan quickly spread, and finally, fragmentary information and aftermath of the war began to spread to the Wall of Origin. Although 99% of the information and remnants were swallowed by the greedy Wall of Origin, the gods on the wall still barely caught some. Yuga Khan. Dead. Is that right? Is Yuga Khan actually dead? That new world called Marvel is so terrible. I also expected Yuga Khan to come back, become stronger and smash the damn wall with one punch. Yuga Khan is already an extremely powerful existence among us, and the key is to hold the power of origin. This is a power system that has never been touched since the three eras. But such a powerful Yuga Khan actually died in battle. Martin. Somewhat familiar, it was this guy who opened the two-way passage. Asshole, asshole. Why didn't this scum named Martin come to DC earlier? Why didn't he start the two-world integration earlier? If he comes earlier, I won't have nowhere to go. Don't force the Wall of Origin. The result is stuck. It's better to die than life. The ancient beings on the Wall of Origin were shocked by the terrible news and had to wake up from their long sleep. The moment they opened their eyes, their stored energy began to be used spontaneously, and the Wall of Origin immediately plundered them. Enlarged. They are respectable, skinny, like a corpse. This is the result of being swallowed by the Wall of Origin for hundreds of millions of hail months. If they were not forced to sleep to make themselves fall asleep and reduce their own wear and tear, they would not be able to sustain it for such a long time. Long ago sucked to death. Many bleak gods look into the distance, obsessively wanting to take a look at the other side of the world in the magnificent Marvel world. Unfortunately, even this is a luxury. Their vision and gaze will also be swallowed by greed by the Wall of Origin. Can't see the distance at all. Wait. The Wall of Origins has undergone drastic changes now. Because of the integration of the world inside the wall and the Marvel world, this brand new multi-universe has become a rare junction between the two worlds of the universe. Maybe there will be new ones. Hope. Have a fart hope, even more desperate. The two worlds are connected. Those who have not been on the wall can completely give up exploring the Wall of Origin and go directly to the Marvel Almighty Universe. Some gods yelled and became jealous. They originally expected that the power of the collision between the two worlds could break the damn Wall of Origin, but it turned out that something more terrible happened. Although DC Multi-Universe merged with Marvel, it can be the origin. The wall doesn't have anything. No, it should be said that a very peculiar but logically definite change has occurred. The Wall of Origin still obstructs the path from integrate multi-universe to the DC Almighty Universe. This forces all free gods to give up exploring the DC world and focus on exploring the Marvel world. I just hope that there will be a few more fools on Marvel's side. Let's study this Wall of Origin out of curiosity. Can deceive one as one. A god side, desperate. There are too few fools, they are not enough. Factory.